So here we go. This is our second podcast episode ever. We have a special guest, which we will show you in a few minutes here. But we're going to basically talk about our new special guest and what he's doing for us and what he's done in the past. So, Nick, before we begin...
do we have any grapes?
Why did we forget the grapes?
I think we did.
You know what happened? I bought one of those boards, and I can't afford them anymore.
Oh,
yeah, because I need to turn off my VTX.
Yeah, that tends to happen sometimes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So basically, our team has grown here. We're pretty excited about the new person that we have added into the team. Right now, my son is doing a lot of the development, and Nick has been learning, and he's actually contributing pretty well now. I'm unfortunately been more busy, so I've been contributing less, but we, thought to ourselves, who's the best person we could possibly add to our development team? And we paid him
back. We went way back.
Yeah, well, we took a time machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And we, found this guy someplace in the archives.
Yeah, we actually had to use a pick and pluck to get him out. Get him out of the time machine.
What did we use?
Was it the pick and pluck? What are they called?
Like the grab arm you're talking about?
No, it'd be the same thing as pick, though.
What? No,
what's a pick? Like you're saying the two words.
Obviously,
I'm
thinking of something different. What he has to make the flight controllers, the pick and
place. Pick and place. Okay, all right. That makes more sense because you pick and then you place. You don't pick and pluck.
I mean, it depends
you
how
get it. You pick something up.
I'd
and you
say
place
it's more of a personal style.
Okay, all right, yeah. We had to use it. So, I guess some people may know who he is. Some people may not. The people who know who he is, I think this is going to be like bombshell. Yeah. I wish I had the right sound for it on here, but I don't.
Oh, I don't have a. Oh, this is close enough.
Yeah. What? Wait. What?
It's not really a bombshell.
Yeah, that's yeah. But those who don't know who he is, shame on you. That's what I got.
You need to hop in the time machine as well.
Yeah, because you should know this person. Now, the person is Dominic Clifton. Which, if you don't know who he is, we're gonna ask him some questions and get down to the center of his brain. But basically, he is like the #1 contributor for Betaflight in submissions, code, whatever. But you may not know the whole story. I mean, this guy has been coding since before Preston was born, I think, even.
Wow, OG. He's more OG than Baseflight.
And since speaking of which,
1980 something. I think.
Ooh, 1980 something.
Oh my God, what'd you code with? Like those little
4 probably.
I think he got the moths out of the tubes.
Yeah.
I shouldn't really talk. He's only 2 years older than me.
Oh.
Yeah. But he is older than me, so I feel like the youngin' now. This is great.
Yeah, respect my authority, elders.
But anyways, yeah, and he started. Here, I guess we'll ask Dominic. Dominic, so why don't you introduce yourself? We'll stop over talking over you for a second.
I'm Mr. Cleanflight, innit? What more do I need to say?
Exactly.
Well, people right now are going, "What's Cleanflight?"
Oh yeah, maybe you should talk about that. You should.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we should let Dominic give the history.
So I think we'll probe him because I actually have talked about this like 2 years ago. The whole history of flight controllers and flight controller software. But I think now we have someone who's been around since the dinosaurs used flight controllers.
Yeah.
Before me and you.
Yeah.
We're in this, I'm assuming. We'll pick his brain and let him give it to us. But basically, from what I understand, Dominic, you started with Baseflight with Mr. Timecop. Is that correct?
I started with MultiWii.
Ooh, even earlier, MultiWii.
Yeah.
So
I was with the Arduino stuff, editing config files and recompiling it and all that malarkey that you used to have to do.
Wait, did they actually use Wii controllers for that, or is that where the name came from?
No, there was custom built circuit boards with the Atmel 8-bit processor on at the time I was getting into it.
So why was it called MultiWii then?
Because it was based on the Nintendo Wii's nunchuck controller.
See, there we go. So originally they took the circuit board out of that and used it, but then they just reproduced it? Is that what happened?
No, they just used that to actually fly with. So then they had like a homebrew sort of Arduino thing.
Nick,
Hooked that up to the accelerometer and the gyro out of the nunchuck. And then,
I think he
flew
said
that.
they just used the sensor from it.
So you're
Just the
saying-
sensor or the whole circuit board?
What you're saying is they're just Nintendo Wii nunchucks flying around at the start of time.
Yeah.
Can we bring that
Yeah.
back?
Yeah. Well, that's what we should do. Is actually just like
I saw a video.
Sell the flight controller and then have like a USB nunchuck you plug in, and that's the actual gyro and accelerometer you have to use.
But yeah, so you started with multi-Wii. So who was in charge of that project back then? Do you know?
So the multi-Wii was Alex in Paris's sort of baby.
Oh, okay. And then that somehow migrated. Oh, that was written in 8-bit-C? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that was all 8-bit stuff. Mostly 8-bit stuff.
All right. And then from there, where did you end up? What happened next after we were flying around?
Well,
Video
the
games.
reason I was actually using one of these multi-Wii controller things was actually first LEDs for my snowboard. And then I was fiddling around with one of these multi-Wii controllers to do that. And then one guy that I knew out in France where I was snowboarding for the season that time said I should get one of the NAS 32 boards because it'd be better. So I did. And then I reported my code over to that to do the LEDs, and it was a lot better. And then eventually I actually got around to building a quad and then stuck the multi-Wii one in it, and then it didn't fly very well. And then I got another NAS 32 because my other one was on my snowboard at this point, not actually being used as a flight controller. And then I got another NAS 32 and then built one of the TBS discos, and that was my first quad. And that's what I used to fly to start with. So that was with base flight from Timecop, because Timecop ported the multi-Wii stuff to the STM32.
All right. And then somehow, from what I understand, you ended up being the major contributor to base flight towards the end.
Yeah, back in the day, base flight wasn't using stuff like GitHub and things like that. GitHub was sort of new-ish. I mean, it had been around for quite a while, I think, at the time. But Timecop wasn't used to using Git at all. It was using SVN. And multi-Wii before that was using zip files to share code between the different authors, and it was an absolute nightmare. So there's a few people wanted to basically get base flight onto GitHub, and as soon as that happened, lots more contributors came out of the woodwork, because obviously it just made things a lot easier. And then everything sort of started snowballing from there, basically.
So to interject, just so people understand what the heck you're talking about. So Git is what we basically use now for like source control. So basically when we write source, it uploads it to a server and everyone can see it, and it kind of makes everyone so it works together. Like it automatically combines, it saves backups. I can go back to like 2 years ago and see what was there. So it controls all that stuff, and SVN does the same thing, but SVN Git actually stores the entire database locally on your machine. So if the server goes catastrophic, you can literally just copy what's on your computer back to the server, and everything's restored. SVN, I think the biggest difference is it doesn't have that ability. I think that's the number one reason everyone's switching to it.
Yeah, the branching thing was the main.
Yeah, well, SVN kind of does some branching too, but maybe that's older, they're newer stuff than back then.
Everyone has things in different directories, and it's rubbish.
Yeah, so it gets just a better organized one. I remember the switchover, like people fought it for years. I mean, yeah. And now that it's pretty much
myself
accepted.
included, I'm like, oh yeah. Like all the commands were like alien to me. I resisted learning for a while.
I mean,
and I did. I'm like,
Git has a tendency.
It's still a pain in the ass. Like it's not user friendly.
Yeah, well, Git has a tendency to completely trash everything, and then you're like, fuck, what do I do? And just you ditch down the whole project again. Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah.
I do that. I had a phase where I think for a month I probably recloned the entire fucking directory.
You start doing
15
commands,
times.
you don't know how to undo it. Like I think it's gotten better. I recently I've not really had that issue in the last year, but
Git reflog is a very useful command if you don't know it.
yeah, Dominic has brought our nerd factor up to here.
Yeah, I know. Like he's just
Yeah. Ooh.
he says things. I'm just like, all right, pressing on to you.
So maybe we'll bring in some even nerdier people.
Oh,
into our
fantastic.
ecosystem. So
We'll actually only talk in 8-bit C to each other.
we're gonna talk right here. We're gonna jump to the future, and then we'll jump back in time. So Dominic, I think Dominic and I, we've been talking for quite a long time since pretty much the race flight days. I've been talking to Dominic, and we've had like a secret romance where no one knows we actually been knowing each other and talking to each other, I think. But we've always kind of stayed in touch in the past, and we actually went to do things together in the Boris days even. And
I forgot about Boris B. He was like God for the longest time to everyone.
Maybe to you.
Back in the Lux Float days. I remember everyone was like, dude, Boris is like literally the second coming of Christ. Lux Float's amazing.
I can't wait to talk about what happened with how Betaflight became a thing. But yeah, we're gonna jump to current stuff. So Dominic, we were talking a while ago, and Dominic was telling me, hey, I'm making this board. And I'm like, you should put 2 gyros on there, and you should. I think did you want to put 2 gyros on there then? I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, orient at 45 degrees so the axes don't match up, and he's made this board. I mean, literally. Ooh, you know what? I did the
F7 one with a dual gyro.
Give me a green. There's a green board over there, sweetie. Give me that board.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew's looking for it, but
There we go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I did the F7 dual with the 2 gyros.
Now I gotta say this
and
is
your feedback on that was like, I wonder what it'd be like if one was 45.
Yeah, I think I told you to do a few things. I don't remember the list, but and then I saw your board. You didn't even tell me you did. I just saw your board. I'm like, motherfucker. Like didn't even say, hey, I mean, you don't say much about anything, so I guess you can't.
Is it like how every moment after you came out putting the gummies on the flight controller?
Motherfucker has gummies on here too.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, every flight controller after that point had gummies.
And somehow Emacs invented it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone.
We won't talk about that.
I had my own custom gummies, custom made. So I got my old molds made up and everything.
Well, everyone has to, because my mold is in a safe somewhere in China. Because
safe.
Cool because you can put them upside down and they're a different size at the top and the bottom.
Well,
so
our new ones.
The offset between the boards.
Oh yeah, that sounds like ultra confusing. Like if it's not a huge difference.
That's literally exactly what our new gummies are.
His are just slightly. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, no, ours are like 3 times.
So there's 2 on one way and 2 on the other way on everyone's quads out there right now.
Oh, I don't have any like that. I'm actually using your reject pile of O-rings, the really, really flat red ones. You put like 100 between your boards.
I've thrown away. I refuse to use them.
Yeah, you know why? Because they're annoying. Every time you pull the ESC off, there's like literally 45
Yeah, but
gummies
now that you're in Arizona,
off.
you never have to use an old gummy again.
I know. I'm about to just redo all my gummy situations.
And we're going to make sure our gummies get in Dominic's boards because they're amazing. But what's special about ours is like it holds yours might do this too. I don't know. But ours holds it just perfect. Like you don't need to use a nut or anything. I actually haven't tried your gummies, so I can't comment one way or another. But ours is different than everyone else because they got their own mold made. So that's why ours is super secret. In fact, the one that manufactures us can't even use our gummies in his boards, and his gummies kind of suck. But here's this board. I think it is the epitome of a Betaflight board. 1 million pads on the bottom. So you guys can go solder crazy on it. But this is, honestly, has to be the best flying Betaflight board you can buy. The one thing, it's running at 400 megahertz, which is pretty snazzy.
It's like double what the F4s is, isn't it?
Yeah, double. Yeah, more than double. F4s are 168.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, more than double.
Yeah. And it's a special CPU, so it's better at multitasking and stuff like that. It's actually stuff we've been messing with for a while, but Dominic beat us to it because he's a groundbreaker. But these are really hard to find. They're like gold out there, I think. Dominic makes them in his basement. He slaves over the hot oven all day and makes some boards.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I had no idea, Dominic, that you actually like make your own boards. That's crazy.
That's where the pick and place came from.
I do everything. So I get all the electronic components. I design the circuit boards. I do the software. I do all the assembly. Do all the solder pasting.
Yeah. So basically, we're now like, Dominic, come work with us. Stop being, factory worker. There's better uses for your time than working in your sweatshop there.
It's an art shop is what it is.
But this board's amazing. So if you can pick one up for Betaflight, I definitely think this is like a way to go. It like literally he crammed everything you can possibly cram on this thing. And he's great at the design. But what's great about Dominic, what I'm most excited about, is not only does he know the software stuff, and he complements us. I think we're weaker, but we're much stronger in areas he's weaker. So like the flight code stuff, maybe he doesn't grasp as much as we do, but he loves to make everything perfect, like this clean codeness. And he does the hardware design. He knows that a lot better than I do. I mean, we have another engineer that finishes up our stuff, but now us all working together can hopefully like catch mistakes from things and how to implement them better, and we discuss it. So everything's just getting better and better because of that. He's been working on our new board with us too, finding all the flaws. That is coming soon as well. But his board is pretty well designed. It's made. This one's made to be a PDB. So your individual ESC guys probably can fall in love with it. But I do recommend picking up one if you can, because it's a pretty amazing board. But yeah, so this is, and one of the things he did is he put all this code in Betaflight to make this work, because this is a whole different processor. And as far as I know, he's the only Betaflight board with that processor that works. Is that correct, Dominic?
That's correct at the moment, yeah. But I must give a shout out to the other Betaflight top H7 contributor, which is Jay Fliper. So he did a lot of the initial H7 processor support, and I did all the H750 differences plus external flash support, and
did you send him some free
a whole
boards?
bunch of other things.
Did you at least pay him in free boards?
And you know what? He doesn't actually have a board. He never asked for one.
Oh,
I know. He doesn't need it though. He's doing his own stuff. So
he's got an A32 still.
Well, is he making his own boards, you mean, or?
Yeah, well, he's basically prototyping this, that, and the other, left, right, and center all the time. He's a busy chap.
Oh, I see. I gotta say, the reason I got in this at all is because originally the person we shall not name, he wanted to do this for a living, and I'm like, hey, let's make some money so he can do it. That really didn't work out because he was freaking crazy. But that's kind of the thing. It turns me around to Dominic. I mean, Dominic is like the godfather of all this stuff. If anyone should be doing a good living from this, it should be you. And I feel like people are less and less know who you are. People less and less know about your hardware, which to me is a shame because it's the best. I mean, I'll tell you, when we first started this, I think we were running, I don't know, some F3 crap. I don't know what, like
the Sparky at one point.
Yeah, the Spark and some other things, and they never worked. And so we're like, oh, what board should we get? And someone told me the SP Racing.
SP Racing F3.
What was your original board? Yeah, whatever. SP Racing F3.
SP Racing F3.
Yeah. So we got that.
I know my history.
Well, it's funny. Is this one of the first time we talked to you? Is we got it. We're like, oh, we go to our local hobby shop and we picked it up, and like I don't remember, it didn't work.
Well.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting to that. And then I'm like, I write you, and you're like, is it a clone? And I'm like, I don't think so. It says SP Racing on it, and you're like, is the manual like this? And I'm like, yeah. And is it like this? And like, yeah. And I'm like, and then like, I don't know.
It's a really easy way to tell, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. You told me something.
SP Racing F3, if it's got a battery connector and a buzzer connector, because they screwed up the buzzer connector one.
Yeah, I think they like Xeroxed your manual.
Don't have these connected.
Yeah. So it turned out it was a clone, and that's why it didn't work, and it went in the old trash can. But what's funny is like that kind of encompasses our hobby, where like I don't know if the hobby shop knew. I'm assuming they knew, and they're probably just trying to save a buck. But as a customer, I had no idea. I went and bought this thing, and it's kind of bullshit. That you go buy and clone, and actually cloning's getting better. Like the clones don't look the same as much here, but they're still cloning. They just copy the pinouts and design, and then they rearrange things a little and they clone it. So it's kind of a shame, because really I think that was your beginning in where you're fighting the dragon of cloners and stuff like that, and it made it harder.
Well, that whole experience changed everything going forwards. So prior to that, the SP Racing F3 was sort of completely developed in the open. So everyone knew what I was working on and what I was doing. And then because of that situation, then everything went behind closed doors. So anything new that I was working on wasn't published until it was actually ready to.
Yeah, I was told someone actually cloned you from a picture before you even released originally. Is that what?
So initially, I think Time Cop as a screw you, because of the whole clean flight base flight thing, came up with a schematic, and I think RMRC then had the RMRC Dodo, which used the same software. essentially. But they use the F3 that only has half the flash, so of course that's useless these days. You can't run Betaflight on that anymore. But the SP Racing F3 will still run everything on it.
Which I think is hilarious because for the longest time we're like, use F4 Betaflight. You want that F4 goodness, and they're like, no, F4s suck. We only want F3s, and now they're like, you can't run on F3. Sorry, we've moved on. So it is kind of funny how that stuff works, but yeah.
Now they're even like, even with the F4, especially the F7s, they're like,
they're like, well, we don't need space because we run D-Shot 150, but we do need memory. And so I think that's the biggest thing, right? The memory. But yeah, so again, I'm gonna do a commercial for Dominic right now, even though there's probably like 3 of these in retailers right now. So
yeah, if you'd like getting hold of Revolt OSDs were hard, this is like literally worth its weight in gold.
But it's more because he does it in his basement, so we're gonna fix that for sure.
I would feel bad flying one, honestly, like knowing that like Dominic is like basically hand assembled these boards.
This is going in my hex. I can't wait.
Oh,
we're gonna build a hex.
I just want to frame one and like put it up on the wall.
Yeah, Dominic, send some our way. At least one for Nick, so he doesn't have to steal mine. You know what I did do? I borrowed the TVS diode from this.
Not that one.
But I got some in the mail, so we can put it back on. Yeah, so this is good. So I think it's really helping us out because I'm going to help Dominic with some of the marketing production stuff on his own boards. Plus, he's coming to work with us on our stuff and things like that. So that should be really good. So why don't we go back to our history? So I
want to pause before the history. We have 30 seconds for the camera stops recording. So I'm going to restart the recording really fast.
All right, give us 1 second. All right, so Mr. Baseflight over here, we're in our history, and you're working on Baseflight. And then I guess did that stuff not go well? How did Clean Flight come about?
So there was a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to do. I think initially it started out with support for soft serial and then the LED strip stuff. Those are the 2 sort of major features that were added initially. And then I'm looking at the code and I'm working around it and I'm like, I want to move this over here and I want to move this over here and I want to do this so that people aren't keep treading on each other's toes. Because what was happening, you'd get one person commit to the project and another person commit. Or just make contributions, but these contributions would then clash with each other, and that was a continuing problem. And it's one of the things that I sought to try and solve. And one of the ways to do that was to disconnect all the different parts, and I wanted to do that in a big way. So I took a pickaxe to it essentially and just ripped everything apart. And Timecop didn't like any of this really. He wanted to have all the files in the same directory, and I could see that when you start picking it apart, you end up with more files, and he didn't want that. So we agreed to disagree, and I went my own way and did Cleanflight.
Which to me is kind of, this is one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of open source stuff, because we want to be open, we want to be like, hey, we're doing this and we're doing this, but. Not that I'm saying you did anything wrong, but it always seems like some guy, whoever you said, Alex, what was his name, Alex Paris or whatever, did WeFlight. He's just moseying along, thinking he's having a great day, and then all of a sudden Timecop comes along, and now there's no more WeFlight, and then I think what happens is people
multi-week. Yeah, what the hell's WeFlight?
Maybe for copyright reasons.
Maybe it's the next flight control software.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna do WeFlight.
Go back to our roots.
We can get sued. Okay, listen, I got a plan. We're gonna get sued by Nintendo for calling it WeFlight, but everyone's gonna hear about it. We're gonna change our name and millions of users.
We'll change it from WII Flight to WE Flight.
Yeah. Well, then WeChat will sue us, and we'll get even more publicity.
Exactly, and then we'll do like WIE WeFlight.
Yeah.
Wait, are you writing these ideas down that we should remember?
We're literally hard recording it right now.
Do you really? Are any of us gonna watch this video again?
Hopefully you, because you're editing it.
No. I looked for little dips in the audio, so if something sneaks in there, it wasn't my fault. It was Nick's.
It usually ends up what it ends up being.
So yeah. But I mean, so to me, like, it would be nice if everyone just could somehow agree and it could stay as one thing, or you don't have to worry. I mean, competition's kind of nice, but it's not kind of nice. Like, I feel like everyone fights and then everyone leaves and there's like only a few guys left.
I mean, that's happened. I mean, that cycle of someone started something and they went really well with it for like 6 to 12 months. And then it kind of gets a little out of hand, a little cluttered. And then someone comes along and changes it. And then all of a sudden the original people who are like, what the hell, man?
I mean, if it was me in this circumstance, I would just be like, because I think Dominic's more equitable. I don't know what the word is, but amenable. So I think, if it was me, I'd be amenable. You know what amenable means?
Amoeba?
No, amenable. That's the proper word. Dictionary.com, Nick.
Not amoeba.
I'm sorry. I guess people born after World War II. Wait, what were we born after? Some war in the Middle East.
It's okay.
I don't know.
I understand your joke.
No,
they don't. But I do.
No, it's not a joke. That's a real word. Amenable is a real word. There's your word of the day.
I'm a dictionary.com.
All right, you do that while we talk about this. Anyways, so Dominic's more amenable. So I'm sure if it was me, I'd be like, hey, you want to do all that work? It's fine. Let's just do it. Whatever. I don't care. Let's keep going. But I think they stick their they draw their line in the sand, and then it ends up kind of burning.
It's interesting how the open source stuff works, because when you're first starting out with something, you haven't got anybody else sort of stopping you from doing what you're trying to do, essentially. And then more people start getting added to the project and start doing things, and before you know it, you as the person that came along and started something are then spending all of your time looking after all the other developers rather than actually doing the stuff that you want to do or continuing with the work that you started, which is one of the huge problems that any bit of software that gets popular will face in the open source world anyway.
Yeah.
I just want to point out the word amenable, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is an adjective meaning open and responsive to suggestion, easily persuaded or controlled. So wow, you just like totally sneak dissed him by calling him an amenable.
That's correct, right? See?
Easily persuaded and controllable.
No. It's open and responsive to suggestion.
And then read the next line after the comma. Easily persuaded or controlled.
Well, but the way definitions work is it doesn't have to be all the definitions. That's how definitions work. Just so you know.
Oh, if it's in the same part.
Open and no, it has a thing called a semicolon between the two. You see how that works?
So it's like a line of code. It just stops there.
Yes, that's it. Exactly.
Now you know.
Unless you're using Python and you got to get your spacing right in the beginning. You get one space in there and the whole world goes to hell.
JS and they magically appear on their own.
Yeah. Don't put it after it. You got to put it after the. Don't put it after the if.
I'm just saying you should just use MATLAB for everything, man.
Okay. Anyways, so I think, and then Dominic came along and did his thing, and that's kind of the thing with open source, and then the pattern kind of repeated itself. And I'm going to give my take on this. I don't know.
This will be interesting.
Were you around the Clean Flight days?
Oh, I was around. Oh, I was. That was like probably I was about a year in to my flying when Clean Flight came around, or at least when I swapped to Clean. So I started actually with the multi-wii boards on a knockoff of a ZMR.
You're way before me, buddy.
Yeah, I had like
I was flying DJI.
Oh yeah, I
we
started
had a multi-wii, but we couldn't get to work.
Yeah, it was so much work. I was like, F.
Well, actually, I started with the KK2 on one of David Vindestel's like wooden tricopters. So I tried to build one of those. I actually there was a laser cutter at my school, and so I laser cut the top and bottom plate out of some plywood and got the dowels and tried to make it. But the problem is that I tried to use like the cheap $1 servos from Hobby King as my tail servo for this like 14-inch swinging propeller in the back. And every time we give a yaw input, it would just literally strip the entire servo, and the thing would just go nuts and fly away.
Yeah. Is it recording? Oh, okay. All right, it was recording.
So you just
I just turned it off.
Wait.
So
go. Seem like we all blacked out.
Yeah. So go back in time. Talk about your plywood.
Clap sync.
All right. Whoo! I didn't know which way the light was supposed to go.
To be totally fair, the breathing red light should be recording, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Or it should just be off if it's not.
Yeah. I would like it to be white if it wasn't recording.
Also
that would be beautiful. Rode, since I paid for this, I'm going to complain. If you would have sponsored us. Okay. Back to your supply wood.
So basically,
ask him the question. Ask him the question again, then you can just start from there.
I don't think he asked, but I think I just went off on a tangent.
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty sure he nicked it.
So
yeah, like what? How did you get into it?
Well, I think I actually asked, did you know about Clean Flight?
Oh,
were you around there?
yeah.
And then he went into dinosaurs flying
yeah,
quads.
so yeah, go for it.
So when I started flying about 5.5 years ago, I started with David Vindistel's tricopter, which was like wooden dowels with like a laser cut plywood top and bottom plate. And thankfully my school had a laser cutter, so I was able to just cut that out, assemble it. And the problem I figured out, well, first of all, I was using a KK2 board. That's how old back in time this was. But it had these giant like 3512 motors running 13-inch props, and for the tail servo I tried to use like the cheap $1 Hobby King plastic servos, and so anytime you give any yaw input, the servo would just internally shear and the back tail rotor would just go nuts and it would literally just fly off. And I was like doing this in the courtyard of my dorm.
So it wasn't a metal geared one then, I take it?
No, plastic geared. I didn't realize I'd flown like foam RC planes for like a year before that, and I'd always just used these cheap servos and never had a problem. I didn't realize that with these giant, torquey motors on a 12-inch prop, you probably should use something a little better.
Well, and that's why we use NASA, like DJI. Just plug it in. It just worked. It was beautiful.
So after that, I just destroyed my tricopter. After about 3 tail servos going through, I decided to scrap the whole idea. It was never going to work. And so I got a knockoff ZMR 250 from My RC Mart. If anyone OG remembers that. Like they're the OG Banggood. With like a $10 frame.
Code 77321.
Yeah, but that came with a multi-wee board, and that was my very first like actual like quadcopter experience, and it never ever flew right.
So you guys don't know how lucky you are. We flew uphill both ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I had
It's like,
there was a multi.
if you go back and look at your old footage from maybe like 2013 or 2012, if you had a recording cam back then, or Mobius or something like that back then, right? If you go back and look at it, it's like it's so bad. They're like, oh my god, we love this stuff, and now if we did it, we'd be like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Yeah, there's footage
which I find like this is a good lesson to learn. I find that's with everything we do. Like we think we have the most amazing quad, and like it can't get any better. And then we do something in our circumstance, and it flies even better. And we didn't even know it was possible to be better. So that's kind of a lesson for you guys. If you're flying still the SP Racing F3, I bet it can be better. That's the bottom line. I mean, like Dominic's new board, like we have flown H7s, not Dominic's yet, but they fly better. And that's the thing. You don't realize what's better until you've experienced it, because yeah, because you might think chocolate ice cream is the most amazing ice cream in the world. It tastes so delicious, and then you try like eggnog or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
then eggnog flavored ice cream.
You don't
they
know
have
they
eggnog flavored everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never even had eggnog.
Yeah, eggnog flavored hot. Wait, what?
All right, guys. So this is the new thing. This is what you need to buy this week: eggnog.
Yeah. And you can actually buy it right now.
Con Candy Great. I like the what is the name of the one I like?
I think this
what,
time
the eggnog?
Yeah, what's the brand?
Shamrock Farms.
Shamrock Farms. You gotta try that one.
Affiliate code 7735284.
What did you say, Dominic?
Can you guys can't hear me too well, can you?
No, we can hear you, but we're just like talk so loud that we.
I'm a loud talker.
Yeah, here, hold on. We can turn you up.
Say that you can get an eggnog latte from Starbucks at this time of the year as well.
Ooh, Starbucks! Don't you have?
They used to have it back in England, but I haven't. Obviously, I'm not in England anymore, so I don't know whether they still do it.
Yeah, you got to eat like horchata or something. I don't know what they have in Spain. But yeah, I don't know. We went on quite a tangent here. I'm gonna spin us back around, but from my take, and you tell me your take. When the whole Clean Flight, like we didn't fly Clean Flight actually. We flew the SP. Actually, I'm not even sure we ever flew at SP Racing F3. So I'm sorry about that, Dominic. But what we saw, I guess, is air mode came out, and Boris is like, "Hey, I want to put this experimental thing in." So basically, all he did is do a copy star.star. Add air mode, which is literally like 2 lines of code or something. I don't know how much it adds.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It's nothing. It basically it's
not a big change.
Yeah, it's a minor change, and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, this flies amazing!" And for those who don't even know what air mode is, I mean, if you fly FlightOne, you have no clue because it's stupid. You can turn it off, but basically, it's as you reduce the throttle, the quad doesn't respond to movement. Like, does that make any sense? Like, you're falling out of the air, you're free, you have no throttle, and you can't make your quad turn. But the air mode basically made your quad turn. So arguably, that sounds pretty important to me. That sounds probably pretty important to you, Nick.
I mean, it depends, you know.
And
I'm
so-
a full throttle fanatic, so I never have that kind of problem.
So I think a combination between, I think Dominic is just, hey, I want to do it the right way. And a combination of that and people always want to try the newest, coolest stuff. It kind of started to snowball from there. And
well, one of the other goals, of course, was of Clean Flight was to get as many other people in and contributing to it as possible, which wasn't happening with the multi-Wii. I mean, it was a bit, but it's a handful of developers, and also with the base flight stuff. So the idea was to attract much more developers, and so that they didn't tread on each other's toes, as I mentioned earlier. And because of the work that I did, things like beta flight actually exist, and proof is in the pudding with the amount of contributors that there are in beta flight. I think the last time I checked, there was over 1,000 contributors, and it might be even like 2,000 or something crazy like that now. Probably even more, to be honest. But that's a far cry from the original days of just a handful of people.
yeah, but what I think is weird, I mean, talking about beta flight, is like it's still a few people do all the contributing. So like you have one guy who's like, hey, I'm going to add a semicolon. Check it out. That makes it better. And hey, I'm a contributor beta flight. I'm putting that on my resume. Like I kind of find that it still ends up where just a few select people do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the commit list a couple days ago just because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, how many contributors are there to beta flight? And I was like, oh my god, there's like thousands of people. But like if you look at who's actually doing it, there's a handful of people basically doing like all the heavy lifting. People can contribute here and there for like little things, little bug fixes and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff like trying to get features, working on certain boards and stuff like that.
Which I can see that. So I mean, that kind of enables kind of the.
There's other things as well. Like it's not always clear from like say commits and amounts of code as to how much time and effort someone has put into something. So, for instance, you might sit there finding like a one line of code commit from someone, but this one line of code might be one of the most important developments in the history of the project, kind of thing.
I swear, some
and it might be some mathematician poring over some filter algorithms or something like this, trying to work out what is going to work the best. And they might change like 3 or 4 lines of code for implementation of a filter, but the difference that can make and the amount of time that they will put in to find that out, isn't reflected in the lines of code that they commit or the amount of commits that they may make.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think like I'm gonna give a shout out, but like I think M. Keller, like his job is one of the hardest because to me, I mean, I'm glad there's people out there who can do that, but to me, I can write code faster than I can help someone else's work or curate it or get it in there.
Yeah, I don't understand how he does what he does. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I think that's the difference. Is I like having a nice, good team like we do at work, and we can count on each other to kind of verify our work, and we don't have to go over everything line by line to make sure you're not breaking everything. But like I think when you get to that size, just having to have one person, and I guess it's him. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dominic.
Yeah, he's the current maintainer at the moment who responds mostly on all the pull requests that people do. And has taken up the mantle of keeping a code base clean, which I started for Clean Flight. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that to me is the real hero there. I can't believe someone would want to do that. But maybe his strength is in doing that rather than doing the actual coding and stuff.
He's the gatekeeper.
No, he does a lot. But he's under a lot of pressure though. That's one of the issues with it because everybody wants him to do stuff for like all the time basically, and there's just not enough time to do your normal day job and be a full-time maintainer of a project.
Yeah. Which comes around to, I mean, like I truly think like people that do all the work, whether it's in beta flight or FlightOne or whatever, should at least get something out of it. I think that keeps you continuing because I think we have this cycle where you get developers that contribute significantly for a period of time and then they just disappear. Rather, they get not excited with the hobby anymore, or it turns into
some of the sort of going pressures have their toll on it, and trying to get everything exactly 100% perfectly right, I think, is quite a lot on someone that's new to it. So, I remember back in the Clean Flight days, and there was people that I wanted to get involved in, and I always know that not one person is going to be good at everything that they do. So someone who's really good at working out, math-related stuff is probably going to be a terrible coder. Someone who's good code might be terrible at doing graphic design.
Build that one religiously.
And there isn't one person who can do like everything. I know it takes a team. So the thing to me was basically just getting it to a point where lots of people could contribute to it, and using those people and working with those people to find out what their strengths are. And then, if some of their code isn't perfect, rather than getting them to sort it out, I would sort some of it out myself. So you might get some really good code from someone, but it's in a terrible state, but it has the value. So if you're not a good coder, it might be a fitting place to try and get something merged into Betaflight because of the quality issue.
Yeah.
Which is a big problem for the project at the moment.
Which is a shame, because some of the biggest innovation can come from some really shitty code. I mean,
they don't want to contribute. They get one. They start doing something, and then because of all the resistance to it and all the sort of essentially what they might see as nitpicking just gets to them, and then they just don't want to contribute.
Well, I mean, when I started, I contacted you, and I think you're just too busy, and I don't think we talked. And then
he's been too busy.
Yeah. And then so I contacted, I don't know, probably talked to Boris or talked to people in the Betaflight circle, whatever. And this was after I talked to D. Ronan, and they were a bunch of dicks. But basically, like, it turned into like a pissing contest on if I did it right and all this other shit. And it's like, I had a company and I had like 15 developers that worked for me at the time. And I'm like, I'm like a pretty busy guy. I make money doing this for a living, and I'm trying to help out this free thing. And you guys are acting like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I got to argue about everything, and I got to justify everything I did. So I was just like, screw it. I mean, that's honestly why we never contributed Betaflight, because we had a little teeny test phase where we tried to talk to him or help with something or whatever. And like, it was totally like not worth the stress.
I think there's quite a few people that have been put off contributing to Betaflight.
Yeah, I think you come up with get these people that are like willing to be beat down. Like, that's who ends up in these projects. And like, I think probably your best contributors probably aren't those type of people. Like, so who knows what technology we're missing out on, because people really know their shit. Because the more you know, the more confidence you have, and the more you're not going to put up with some asshole telling you what should be right or you're doing it wrong.
There's a lot of different differences of opinion with the core developers. In lots of different aspects as well. So, I mean, you guys know with the 32 kilohertz stuff, right?
Yeah. And
that's a contentious point for a lot of people in the Betaflight world.
Which is just stupid. I mean, the bottom line is we want as most control over the data as possible. That's our whole argument there. Rather, going faster is better or whatever. It gives us the most raw data is the bottom line, and the most control, because the more data you have. Well, we'll let Nick talk about it, although I remember arguing this with you. But the more data you have, the better you can fly, right?
Yeah, basically, the more
theory.
Data is there, even, a lot of people go, 32 kilohertz is noisier. Well, it's like, the data itself isn't inherently noisier. You're just getting raw data versus processed data. And you're always better off getting all the raw data and doing the processing yourself, rather than getting basically pre-processed data. I mean, if you can't, I think one of the biggest things is that some people don't want to do the processing,
or don't have the right CPU amount, CPU with life, or they think they can't do it or they think they can't do it as good as maybe the gyro. Maybe your argument is all these engineers know more than me. They're going to process the data better than I can. But in the terms of the gyro, we know it's just the anti-aliasing filters and low passes and. Give me a break. We can do that ourselves.
So, like I say, a big contentious issue.
Yeah, exactly. But and so in that circumstance, and I think that's the problem with Betaflight. I mean, whoever is in control is going to make the decision. So if you got someone that wants to come along, to me, it's an open source project. So if I want to put some sort of modification and even make it a define or whatever else, and I think this is going to be better, to me, I'd be like, hey man, go for it. Do it. And you got to keep your shit up to date, or else we're going to remove it. So when we do other things, you got to make sure it still works. But I think the problem is it starts breaking other things, and other things don't work. And I understand, like, they have to make 1,000 boards work. And to me, just that fact alone makes me not want to have anything to do it with it, because just having them make all these targets for all these companies work.
Yeah, that's one of the downfalls as well. I mean, that's been one of the was supposed to be one of the big features of Betaflight 4.1, but it turned out that RPM filter was much more exciting to the users.
Yeah, and you typically just want to go to
Boris. Actually, I think it's Boris's sort of like he didn't have any forethought when it came to adding new targets to it. So one of the reasons that Betaflight exploded back in the day was support for the BL Heli pass-through for programming your ESCs. A lot of people like that. I saw the code and I'm like, I don't want to merge this yet. It's not really ready.
Looking at you, little Preston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Dominic.
I looked at the code. I'm like, this isn't clean enough. I know it's good. You know, the idea is good, and I really wanted that to happen. But just so many people were just like, I just want to use it as it is. You know, it works. It's fine. What's wrong with it? But it wasn't ready for me.
Which is and that's the problem. You know, Dominic's the gatekeeper here in this circumstance with Clean Flight. And no one's, I mean, typically you're not working for anyone. You're not making money. You're not profiting from it. Like all these mostly Chinese companies who don't have to make near as much money to run their company are just making boards and getting all these suckers, in my opinion, to do the work.
So the BL Heli was one of the things that made it popular. And the other thing was support for additional targets. So I didn't want to merge that many targets because I knew that of the problem that would ensue when you did that. You've got one target, it's easy to test. You've got 2 targets, it's twice as difficult to test. You've got 3 targets, it's 3 times more difficult to test. Sure, there's some common code, but you know you've still got to get that code onto the flight controller and test it. And the fact that the Betaflight basically added target after target after target after target meant that every time you change one line of code, you have to compile like, I don't know, it's something stupid like 100 targets or something like this now, which has been a problem. So the developer feedback, you make a change, you don't know whether it's broken anything. That whole feedback loop is just like, it's crazy. It's too long.
Well, and I think
and this was the problem that I wanted to have addressed before adding too many targets.
Well, and also
because of the popularity of the hobby, that didn't happen.
Well, and you can't make quality control the same on all of them. Like they're all not going to fly the same. So someone's going to go out there and buy, Joe Blow flight controller, and it's going to fly bad, and people are going to think, Betaflight sucks. But maybe if they bought the SP Racing F3, it would fly good. And I think that's part of the problem. And that's the biggest thing with us. Like we've tried other flight controllers before, and they just don't fly as well. Like I guess because we're thinking about how the software should function when we design the flight controllers. In general, most boards don't fly well, especially because most of them use
most of the other boards that are out there. I think I'm actually unique in the only major contributor of Betaflight that actually produces hardware as well. Which I don't know of anybody else, which is pretty crazy.
Which to me means like I think people should buy your board just for that. Like why not
fly better?
Have it go to people? Like I think you can donate to Betaflight and no one seems to even know where that money goes. Like they give some. We buy equipment and server hosting and stuff. Well, I'll tell you right now, Betaflight, I will host all your shit for free. Okay, so there you go. You don't need anyone to donate any money for this server shit. I got like 100.
You're gonna get Mike knocking on your door in a minute.
Yeah, hey, gladly. You know what? I know I got 100 bare metal servers sitting there doing nothing. We'll find a spot for you. It's fine. Yeah. So to me, it makes more sense.
I was gonna say just to carry on with the whole Betaflight side of things was one of the key aspects that I was really excited about and passionate about when I was doing the Clean Flight was to make it so that it was testable. So a lot of the code that people write, it's only tested by the users, which I don't think is a good thing. You release something and then the user experience is it's broken, and I really don't like that. I much prefer it when you know that something you're shipping is going to work straight away.
Well, and I think like along those lines too, a lot of times, and I think you're even guilty of this, like the developers don't even fly on a regular basis. So I think they get off on the coding part, but not actually the hobby part.
Everything.
It's because I make sure you
on your garbage quad.
No, it's not garbage. It's just not my main quad.
This goes back to the point I was making earlier, is that there isn't one person who's good at everything, right? So I might be a great coder, but compared to the kids these days, I'm an absolutely terrible pilot. So I rely on someone else to, test the changes that I make. And I know that other people do that as, other developers require that as well.
Yeah, I think the problem is sometimes you just don't understand. Like if you don't fly at all, I'm not saying you need to be the guy out there flying every day, but I'm saying when you don't fly at all, you just don't get it.
You don't. Yeah, that's right.
and that's I think part of the problem too, having that disconnect. And I think if you actually, like you in your case, you make boards and people buy them and you make money from it, it makes it more exciting to want to spend more time doing the quad stuff or whatever.
I just like doing cool shit. And if it keeps the roof over my head, barely, then I'll carry on doing cool shit. But the moment it stops putting a roof over my head, I'll just, I'll do some shit that's not quite as cool.
If you don't buy his boards, it's going to be him in a cardboard box with his pick and place.
I won't be doing cool shit for you guys anymore.
So I think this is gonna work out for that reason. Is hopefully we can keep that roof over your head, and hopefully keep my roof over my head and Nick's roof over his head. But at the same time, we want to, like he says, make cool stuff. I don't know what we're talking about. What
does no one care on YouTube?
Beep what? Cuss words? You mean?
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is welcome to YouTube at night.
YouTube after dark.
Yeah, they're gonna count. They're gonna count how many times we say, "Oh, we're gonna make this video R-rated" because they said it 4 times.
I think use the dolphin noise over all of them.
We need we don't have a dolphin noise on here. The only animal we have.
Oh, yeah, Nick, you gotta get right.
Yeah, what
is that?
What kind of piece of crap board is that doesn't have a dolphin noise built in?
You better load it up. We can fit multiple pages of sounds.
Oh, guess who's adding the page with all dolphin noises? Every breed of dolphin ever is gonna have its own mating call on this board.
But yeah, so we're really going off the rails here. I don't know what we're talking about. But yeah, I guess Dominic's trying to tell us. So I think that's what happens is I think you need people that, you need to be accountable to the users. So you need someone to be sitting there and being like, listen, this is super important. People want to be able to flash their quad or whatever it is. And you need to, even though you're like, hey, I want to make it clean, I want to make it perfect. Sometimes you got to move fast to get that feature in there to keep it from landsliding to the other direction. I think that's why you see all these weird beta flight, like the latest, these EMU flight, named after a bird that can't fly, popping up because people, I don't know. I think they want to feel like they're running the newest stuff is more than anything that they want to be the tester.
From what I've picked up, EMU flight is like the continuation of Butterflight, which is the continuation of Helio and their stuff. But basically, it sounds like it's a group of people who could not get the new beta flight, like 4.0, 4.1 to fly right. And so they just basically forked to 3.5.7, which everyone's says the holy grail beta flight firmware. And they forked that. They added some of the Helio, some of the Butterfly stuff in, and now they're calling it EMU flight. And they're like, oh yeah, screw beta flight, screw that 4.1 stuff. No one can get it to fly right.
Which kind of sucks.
They're not going to be running an 8.7 anytime soon.
Yeah.
3.5.
They'll be stuck on the F4 till the end of time.
Well, to me, it kind of sucks that people are that way because, mean, if you're like, hey, you know what? I love walking in my horse and carriage. Fuck ships. I'm not gonna get on that ship. It's not gonna be as good. You need to try stuff that maybe it doesn't work as well at first, but then it gets tuned over time. I mean, I think that's with Betaflight, where they definitely had a rough start with the 4.0 stuff. But I'm guessing it's getting better. But I think people just tend to jump ship. They do it with us too. They have a little bit of vibration. They're like, I'm just gonna flash Betaflight.
I'm just gonna flash RC12.
Yeah. Hopefully, maybe we got Johnny off that. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't even want to know.
I know when he was at my house last month, we had flashed the newest.
You sure didn't flash back immediately?
He said,
you go to bed, he just plugs in the quick.
I'm going to quote Johnny, it flies a lot better. But that doesn't mean he's not.
I've still got some super old firmware on my quads. I think I actually updated one maybe about a month or so ago, and it had some firmware on it from 2018 still on it.
Oh,
it was
the
great.
Fact that you have to
it still flew really great. It was brilliant.
Yeah, oh my God.
If you have to basically carbon date your firmware, I think it's time for an update.
When your firmware was compiled on Windows Millennium, that means it's too old.
No, it's all Windows 7 back. Sorry.
All right, so here's another thing I wanted to bring up. What was when did Clean Flight stop and Beta Flight take over?
I got a good story for that.
Oh,
Ooh, this is.
I feel like there's two fantastic stories here.
I mean, okay. So here's my
Who do
take.
you want first?
Yeah. Dominic can.
I want to hear Preston's first. I'm sure Dominic's is the real story.
Yeah, well, so
Let's see how much you get right.
we'll see a lot. This is one of the when me and Dominic started talking more heavily. I think when Boris basically was like, "Hey, we're gonna stop supporting Clean Flight," because the whole idea behind Clean Beta Flight was, from what I understand, was to test features. Once they were proven good, you're gonna merge them back into Clean Flight. That was like the whole idea behind Beta Flight. And Dominic's like, "Oh yeah, Boris, I love you. Sure, yeah, go test your stuff, and then we'll merge it back in Clean Flight, and then we have a nice, stable, guaranteed good experience on my quad, because this is the stable, and this is the beta, hence the word Beta
edge.
Flight." Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a pretty good thing. And then Boris made this announcement, "Hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We're the best. We're called Beta Flight because we like the fish." I don't know.
What?
Like the beta fish. So it's no longer beta software. It's stable, but it's named after the beta
bee or
fish.
the hornet logo come from?
I don't know.
No.
But my whole point is, it's literally called Beta Flight, and somehow they spun it. I'm not saying they actually were saying the fish. I'm just.
They didn't spin it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for the longest time, I was just like resisting.
And this was so Clean Flight was still a
I
thing.
would use the code to merge it back into Clean Flight and then fly it.
Yeah. So Clean Flight was still kind of a thing at this time. Like, it was still being used pretty heavily. And at the time, this was when Race Flight's coming along, and I'm talking to Dominic. I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna help you out, buddy." And I specifically shamed Boris in public, and got a bunch of other people to shame him in public. And he's like, "Oh, no, that's not what I said. Yeah. We're going to still merge it back into Clean Flight." And then I think that made it die long enough while he didn't do anything in Clean Flight, till everyone started switching over. And then by then it was like, "You're fucked, Dominic. It's too late. You can't do anything." I think, to me, that's what happened. I saw it get dragged on long enough till it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, there's other things going on in my personal life that had a big impact on that. So at some points in my time in my life when I was doing it, I had lots of time to work on it, and then there was like big 6-month gaps where basically I just didn't have any time to work on it, and then relied on all the other developers to carry on with it basically. And one of the issues I had was finding other developers that I could trust that had the same level of code quality that I wanted for the project. So that was one of the big issues why nothing happened in the project for quite a while. Another one of the big issues was that I was working on OSD stuff quite a while. Because if you remember back in the day, the original OSDs, you had the Minim OSD, which is like a Mac 7456 on a separate board, right? And I hated that, and I hated the software setup. I hated the fact that it was still the old Atmel processor and so on. So I wanted to do something about that. And my solution was to create a separate OSD board before the integration, and then work on something that was better than that. But the problem is that the Betaflight guys took the Mac 745 chip and then integrated all the Minim OSD code, which is horrible, into Betaflight. And then that's still what everybody's essentially running today. Whereas I had this nice sort of like element-based solution. It was like way better. So I was taking time out of CleanFlight to improve the OSD situation, which turned out to be a giant waste of my time.
Yeah, which I think is one good thing about us doing this together is I'm definitely the person to push stuff out there. So we're not gonna lose the arms race while you try and make things perfect. So I think it's a good compromise where you can help make things clean and better, but we're gonna make sure stuff keeps getting pushed out there, because I think that's the biggest thing is I think you wanted to keep your base sanitized. I mean, literally, I think it would be better if you had your own beta branch that was more in control. And then you had your stable or whatever. But I think he just used that as an opportunity. And I don't know that he did it intentionally. Don't get me wrong. But that's how it worked out. I feel like Clean Flight got forgotten just enough to where we couldn't have the same outcry that happened at that point to keep it relevant. And then when I saw you, I remember I saw you actually cloned Betaflight and tried to make that Clean Flight. I was like, oh, Dominic. And that's kind of when I knew you're done. Like at that point,
Yeah, I basically ditched a bunch of the code, like I was talking about. I basically just ditched that branch of it, and then all the improvements in Betaflight. Because at the time that I did that, some other things had happened. It wasn't just Boris hacking away on it. Lots of other developers who had also been working on it at that point. So essentially, there was the same, not quite, but a lot of the same level of quality in the Betaflight code base, because lots of the developers were basically using that and flying that. So, for instance, like Martin Budden, Peter Ledvinap, and a bunch of other contributors had basically been working on the Betaflight. So its level of quality had got to the level where I was happy enough with it to do that.
Here, hold on 1 second. Is it still recording?
Yeah, no, I've been looking at it. Apparently, this camera goes over 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's
Yeah.
why when you were stopping before. Yeah, this is an actual video camera.
What are you talking about? It's just
It
it's
gets
an
taxed.
A6400.
No,
Says the
this
video
one is made for video. So they don't have the European restrictions. I don't know how you live there, Dominic, where it can't be, we have to pay extra tariffs because it records video. So Sony's just like, you know what? It's a video camera. We're going to pay the extra tariffs, I think, is what happened.
Or it's a US version. I don't remember.
Or yeah, this, whatever. So that's why this camera's better. Long story
Interesting.
short. Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to go on a tangent there. We were just checking to make sure the camera was still recording. But what? I cut you off, Dominic. Where did I cut you off at?
I've forgotten.
Yeah, me too.
Dun, dun,
Goldfish
dun.
brains.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, now we don't know what
Yeah,
buttons
no,
what.
it was code quality level. That was code quality
Yeah.
level.
So, I mean,
So
and I think
that basically got merged in because I was happy with the quality of the code, and they had also finally got around to doing some of the things that I considered imperative before doing that. One of which was the decoupling of all the configuration stuff. The parameter groups was done.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, long story short, I think let's recap. We had MultiWii, which Dominic actually worked on. So he was out there with the Fred Flintstone, using his pedal car, working on MultiWii, and that Nick was flying during this time.
Indeed.
Not very well, but he was flying or
Horrendously.
attempting to fly.
Attempting is a better.
Yeah.
better.
And then I don't remember what happened. Oh,
Base flight.
GitHub came along. No, I'm losing it. I don't know how we got to How do we get from MultiWii to base flight? What was the change, Dominic? You wanted to make it so people can, but he wanted.
Timecop ported it.
STM.
Oh yeah.
Timecop
We wanted
ported
to go from 8-bit to 32 bits because we want all the bits. And so that's we got the base flight. Then Dominic said, "Hey, this is all messy."
And that was with the F1 processor.
Yeah, so I want to clean it up. And so then we got to clean flight. And then Boris came along and said, hey, I want to add some fancy features. I'm going to test these over here.
You're missing a step. F3 support came.
Oh, yeah.
Then we had a floating point unit and everything.
Well, then do we want to talk about F4s? We got...
No.
Yeah, and then this race flight came along with these clowns. And said F4s are great. And speaking of which, we didn't do the F4 support. It was Samba or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Yes.
and while we're
Sambas.
talking about that, listen, multi-shot is just one shot with one number changed. It's nothing special. There's nothing multi about it. The secret's out. Like, it's literally just making the pulses smaller, more or less.
Yeah, it's like going into the Betaflight configurator and changing your loop speed from 1 kilohertz to 8 kilohertz. I just coded 8 kilohertz.
If it was that easy, but yeah, like this was really that easy. So yeah, and but the F4 support got in there, and then it got merged in at some point during the Betaflight days. I think that was why Clean Flight was still a thing. But I think that made it a big mess, too, to merge back because that code wasn't the best, I think. And
yeah, that's right. There was a lot of cleanup work which needed to happen there in the driver side.
yeah, I mean they were a nightmare back then. I remember.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, so you know, and F4 is like we beat the F4 message forever, and I think people have finally admitted the F3 is dead.
Well, Betaflight won't even support it anymore.
It's not. People haven't admitted that at all, actually. Just maybe 2 days ago, I was working with Joe Lucid and giving him some tips on how to get some more out of that.
Oh.
And I actually did some more work on getting the RPM filter some performance enhancements to getting the RPM filter and the D-shot telemetry working on the SP Racing F3.
There is
listen, just because you can do it, just because you can do it, yeah. And then let me point out something. You're like, hey, can you make my receiver work? It's a PWM. I'm like, you know what? That $10 receiver, how much do you think my time's worth? Do you think it's worth me coding PWM support so you can save $10 on a receiver? Just think about that for a second. Our developer times is precious. We have to fit in Battlefield and Apex games.
How about taking it the other way? Is like, do you want to keep the landfill empty?
No, because I got a good listen. I got a really good theory on this, and this is gonna blow people's minds, and they're never gonna recycle again. Okay, here's my theory: the landmines are the mines of the future. Because when we get the technology down to where we can just dig up all the shit, throw it in a thing, and magically it just gets sorted into elements, because that's going to come eventually where it's going to be super cheap and easy to just recycle anything together. Like, think about it. We're just going to dig up the dumps, and there's all the raw materials we need. So when we've mined all the raw materials, we can't find gold anywhere. We can't find oil or whatever. Where are we going to go? To the landmines. And because we have to, we're going to landfills. Sorry,
I was thinking like
landmines too. They got metal.
I was thinking like the Nigerian forest full of landmines. Still, you got to shovel them up. That sounds a little dangerous. But I guess we could in the future.
But the point is, we're going to go to those landfills, and because we have to, just like when we can't get water anymore. All of a sudden, salination technology is going to be great, right? Because humans do not do anything till they absolutely have to.
Drives the technology.
Yeah. So you don't have to recycle, man. Just throw it in the dump. You know what?
Get recycled, guaranteed.
I'm not saying don't recycle. By the way, I think, but I'm saying
reuse, recycle, reduce.
You don't have to reuse your F3 flight controller. Just throw it in the trash. You know what? Just give it. Don't even give it to a poor kid because you're punishing him.
At least put it in the electronics section at the recycling depot. Do that.
we don't have that in the United States.
Or take the processor off it and hack it and do something else crazy with it.
or
throw it
pull
away.
a Dominic and just put it in your snowboard with some sick LEDs.
Okay, I will. You can use it to power LEDs on your goggle. I'll go that far.
Actually, not a bad idea.
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Brian Moore's taught me that one.
LEDs to it.
Yeah.
You don't even need to use the gyro anymore. Just keep it running for
the gyro is great because when you move your head, it makes the lights dance around.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, see?
There you go. New use for your old quads.
Yeah, there you go. So if you have an old board that's not FlightOne, it's acceptable to use it for your goggles.
And so now we're going to have a new firmware called Light Flight. It's just crazy LED support.
That's what Clean Flight like 0.000001 was.
We should bring Clean Flight back and just we're gonna go old school, make Clean Flight just for LEDs. That's it. What do you think?
Light Flight.
Light Flight, I like it.
And
then you can have a hip one with a T instead of LIGHT.
Okay.
That might be too many GHTs in like one name as well.
But I do want to say I think people are going to panic and they're going to be like, oh my God, what's going on with Betaflight? Is it going to die? Well, I doubt it's going to die. But I'm sure we're going to still help contribute to Betaflight as well. Because, what's nice thing about Dominic being here is we can make these fancy flight controllers work with Betaflight still. So just like he has. So I'm thinking, less time is going to be spent on the other ecosystem. But I'm sure there's still going to be contributions from Dominic and us.
I'll be interested to see what is going to replace Betaflight. Because if you look at the cycle, you start with multi-Wii.
It's going to be chicken flight.
Someone ports it to something better, and then boom, you get base flight. You get someone come clean it up, boom, now clean flight. All of a sudden, someone comes in, adds a couple features, and boom, Betaflight. So like what
do you think would be the driver for the next change there?
A whole nother processing platform.
Support for a new processor, possibly?
Yeah, I'm thinking if we make the Raspberry.
People just keep porting it. I mean, I heard one the other day of someone porting it over to a RISC-V processor. So
yeah. But think about this. Let's say we have AR or what is the other thing called? AI, some sort of image recognition, and we put and the CPUs get super cheap to do that. So they clone it and make it only work with this new AR or whatever. I can see something like that just destroying it. But you never know. It's something stupid. It's I can drive.
I think the driver for something that would replace Betaflight would be somewhere where developers felt more welcomed. Because I've seen a lot of people have been put off by the Beat Fight thing, and I think those developers might well get together at some point.
Well,
So that's
you
why-
are welcome. Dial
I can see a future where that would
www.flightone.com. You're welcome to come with us.
Well, that's why I wanted to point out what Dominic said.
But
I
if
think
you want an open source one or a closed source one, that's the difference, So that some of these developers I'm referring to,
Listen,
necessarily
here's what I'm going to tell you guys. If you use GPL software or write for GPL software, you're never going to, like, the way it's done, it's like acidic. I don't know how else to put it. The problem with GPL is that no company wants to help innovate it because
it's a money hole.
Well, it enables.
No, yeah.
Like-
what I was referring to, it was just like something else, that an open source thing that would replace BeatFlight. Maybe if some people got together and did a new project, it wasn't GPL based.
I think something like that would be better because, like, companies like Intel or Nvidia or whoever out there is doing drone stuff, like, they can't touch Betaflight with a 10-foot pole. So it's not like they can, like, enable their developers to work on it and stuff like that. Because of the way it works, like they can't.
Definitely, that would be a good driver for a new flight control thing, an open one that was on a slightly less restrictive license.
Yeah, like even LGPL would just be 100 times better. Like although I think it's kind of interesting the stuff we discussed, which maybe there's ways to interface with Betaflight now, and there's literally precedents that the communities has seemed to accept. So. I don't know. Maybe we could do some cool stuff with Betaflight, like we talked about.
Yeah, I want to go back to Dominic's point about a new project that is more inviting to new programmers. And I think that's one of the big things of the EMU flight that's coming out. Is it's a lot of the developers who got a lot of pushback from Betaflight, and a lot of people who wrote some pretty awesome things for Betaflight. And
I gotta be honest though. Like, I'm gonna cut you off here because. These guys like literally like write like 2 lines of code. I'm not specifically talking about EMU flight, but these developers in general don't freaking do anything. Like, they literally take all Dominic's work and all Mike M. Keller's work and everyone else's work, and they change 2 lines of code, and all of a sudden they think they're fucking super geniuses, which is bullcrap. So if you actually look at the contributions to these people in general, there are none, and they're like one-trick ponies. Really, and I'm not saying this is EMU flight because I'm not even looking at well, I kind of have. I'm kind of saying it, but I'm just saying that seems to be the pattern where, like, you can convince you're better at marketing or better at promotion than you are at coding, and that's kind of where, like, it goes sideways. And I think in the cases that we've been talking about, the reason the projects has carried on, the reason it's not the Helio where it's died off, the reason it's not the Butterflight where it's died off, is Dominic's contributions were pretty significant. The reason Clean Flight kept going is because it was a major contributions. The reason Betaflight kept going is it was major contributions. Just cloning something and doing a few lines of code, they'll switch for a little bit.
It's true. You would have to get like a diverse team together to create something new. To replace it. I mean, for instance, you've got like all the black box stuff, you've got all the configuration tools, you've got the flight control software, and you've got all the support for all the different sensors and all this kind of stuff. You need a lot of different people to look after all that stuff.
Yeah, because literally EMU flight, like, there's not much done to it.
I mean, if you wanted it to have the same board support as the current Betaflight does, if you start something new with just one board, I mean, that's a different ball game entirely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think the situation we're in, I mean, we're kind of good at everything in terms of marketing and promotion and code and features. That's the reason we were able to get to our point. And even though, like, I kind of feel like we were super attacked every step of the way, we still managed to survive because we did a lot. Like, there's no arguments that we didn't do a lot. And that's what would it take. And there's no arguments that Dominic did a lot, and there's no arguments that Boris did a lot. And there's no arguments that Timecot did a lot.
The user experience with the FlightOne setup stuff, for instance, it's great.
Yeah, and I think, I guess I'm kind of glad we added a new nerd because I'm not trying to get like the nerds in this hobby into FlightOne. Like, that's not really our market. I welcome them because we're fellow nerds, but that's not. I don't want to make it like exclusive, like we're some sort of nerd country club.
Yeah.
Like you need to read an entire like 100-page Wikipedia document to
Yeah.
know how to like flash and get an arming.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna set up these RPM filters.
Some things should just be easier for just people, right?
Yeah, and that's who I want. I
Yeah.
want, dude. To be honest with you, I don't want to spend all day hanging out with just nerdy people.
Really? Because you tend to have a pretty fun time doing it.
I think we're kind of like running the line between nerdy and normal. Well, I don't know about normal, nerdy and abnormal.
Highly
I don't know.
debate that one.
Well, we know how to have a good time. Like I've been with some people that can't even hold a conversation.
Oh no, that's true.
Yeah. Like at least we
The
can
miserable.
We can talk about grapes
for like hours. We have talked about grapes for hours.
Wait, what are we eating today? I forgot already.
Popeye's chicken sandwich.
No, but I thought we had something that was replacing grapes today. I've already forgotten.
Eggnog?
Eggnog.
Oh, because I've never had it.
Yeah, because
I hope I like it. There's a lot of pressure for me to
it's
like
November.
eggnog now.
I know it comes out this month.
Don't
It's
have
been
too
out.
much of it
They
the
had
first
it in
time you have it,
October.
that's fine,
Oh, it's like Vegemite. Like, don't put too much on the first time.
Yeah.
The way you cut it with
you
brandy.
can overdo it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
Now this sounds like a delicious.
Or some
afternoon.
bourbon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Now I'm a
Yeah.
fan of eggnog.
Yeah, you're gonna like it. I'm telling you, we're gonna have an eggnog party. It might be like 10 minutes from now. But I think, what the hell were we talking about? But yeah, I think all these contributions were pretty significant, and that kind of enabled it to do its own thing. And I could see another company coming along, and maybe they're doing some amazing technology and they do a whole new thing. But it's unlikely because honestly, listen, if you're thinking about coming in this market, there's no money. Okay, it's not worth it. Trust me, there's like 17 people that use flight controllers. Like, I think a lot of times people come in this market think there's a bunch of money, and there's not. And that's why we need to like be more towards the normal user, because we need to get people in here. Like, I think probably there's like 100 times more DJI flyers than there are FPV flyers. And that's one company that literally has like 100 times the market we probably have. Probably at least. I mean, how many people do you think are flying DJI, Nick? Like millions and millions, right?
God, way more than I want to admit.
Yeah. And how many people do you think fly flight controllers? Like
7.
100,000, like at most. Yeah. Like yeah. It's,
Well, there's a pretty good metric I think someone came up with to try. This is actually a really cool experiment somebody did, trying to
I'll
like
give you a good metric. Clones of the SP Racing F3. There's a metric right there.
that is a very good metric. But someone took like what was it? It was amount of downloads or something like that. Target downloads, beta flight mixed with like the size of some Facebook groups, and then an averaging factor or something, trying to guess people who aren't online or use stuff like that. And I think the estimate someone came up with was about 100,000 people in FPV in total.
yeah, I think it's between 100 and 200,000.
Yep. That's what I think that'd be about right.
But I think those aren't even like active.
Yeah.
Like if we went to active, probably less than 30,000, I would guess.
Yep. I'd say the same thing.
And I'm pretty proud of our chunk of that market. But it's not that many people. And listen, be encouraging. Don't tell your people that you got to set up RPM filters and figure out your orientation, your motors. Tell them to fly FlightOne. 2 minutes and you're in. Like, that'll bring people in, if you ask me.
Or someone will go and say, it only takes 2 minutes to like set up RPM filters and get your orientation and remapping and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's only 2 minutes. It's only 2 minutes. If I do my dump, all I got to do is put everything exactly the same on every quad, and it's only 2 minutes because it's exactly the same. That's my biggest pet peeve. Like,
I actually still don't know resource mapping.
Hold on. I got to go into my quiet place for a second. Okay, all right, I'm good.
I tried resource mapping because I put in, what was it? It was like 2 years ago or something like that. I tried setting up a beta flight quad for the first time, and I put the ESC in sideways. And they're like, oh, you got to remap the motors. I was like, what do you mean it doesn't do it for you? They're like, no, you got to remap like pin A0 to B0 and A2 to F4. And I'm like, oh. And I did it like 8 times, and every time it was all wrong. And I gave it someone like, please, just do this for me. I'm going to go crazy.
The resource mapping stuff would have been so useful back when the NACE 32 was out because of Timecop's weird design and the fact that everyone back then was soldering on pin headers onto things. All the pads kept ripping off the side of the NACE 32s. Mainly
yeah.
the receiver one, right? And everybody wanted to remap the receiver pin different one or a different motor pad. So it would have been really useful.
Yeah, I think along this, that's the other thing about this hobby is like literally we have all these people that have never even soldered anything or are supposedly a expert computer engineer, and they like destroy hardware like with soldering or connecting pins or whatever.
Some of
else.
the customer returns I've had.
Yeah, well, and it's like, well, you know, the biggest one that we get that I know what you've done is they use another ESC and they just plug. It looks the same connector. I'm plugging it in the board, and then they turn it on, and VBAT goes into one of our motor outputs, and it is not pretty. And then they call us up or whatever, email us, and they're like, "Oh, this came dead." And we're like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't.
I mean, I was
replacement plan.
I personally QA'd it myself.
Yeah, like literally every board that comes out of here gets flashed through the USB port. Like it boots. Yeah. We know it worked.
It's not dead.
Yeah. There is no such thing as a dead flight controller. Okay, listen. Maybe the mailman had a bad day and ran over it with his car. If there's physical damage or components knocked off, that's one thing. But there's no way an MCU is bad.
Wouldn't pass QA.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the biggest pet peeves.
I also want to say, a lot of people take it when you're like, oh well, a lot of people are like, oh, if get FlightOne if you just want to be told that you suck at building and your soldering sucks. But like, a lot of people really, if you like, hey, can I see your board? Can I see how you soldered it up? And the solder balls, things don't get soldered on right. People seem to take it like really, really to heart when you're like, hey, I don't, I think this was soldered wrong. I'm like, but like me, I've been doing this for God knows how long. I built hundreds of quads, and I still solder things wrong. I fried your prototype afterburner
to get it wrong
by accident just because I messed up a solder
and honestly, I freaking am reflowing CPUs on things, and I still fry stuff. Like just the other day, actually, I fried the same quad twice because I soldered positive to negative and negative to positive, and I look at it like, how did I make that mistake? But the difference is, like, I don't try and and I think you got your stores, like, I know Pyroflip's big on this, like I know he hates it, but you'll be like, oh, this came dead, and he'll be like, okay, I'll replace it. Even though he knows it didn't come dead. So it kind of reinforces some people where they start to think hardware comes bad, and when they screw up, they try and blame the manufacturer, or they think they can get away with blaming them. And so they tend to do it. And we're a little different. We're going to be like, listen, you made a mistake. Yeah. There's a replacement plan price.
If you get something off some of the Chinese companies, like off Banggood and whatever, some of the lesser known ones, the way that they all work, they'll basically just stick something in to in production. It'll roll off the assembly line, and that'll be it. The chip might even be pre-programmed before it's assembled, but they won't even test the boards. They'll just ship them straight away. That's what happens with the clones.
Yeah, they won't even flash it.
They can't afford to do the QAing.
Yeah.
And they actually often don't even know how to properly QA anyway, and they certainly won't be testing it with like actual real receivers and real motors and things like that people are invested in it.
I mean, most of the manufacturers out there don't even have people that work for them that know how to fly. To me, it's mind-boggling. So
there's only a few FPV companies that actually do that kind of stuff.
And it even sucks for us because we manufacture over in China, but literally we need the prototypes sent to here to test them. I mean, because there's just not much availability for people that can actually fly things. Like even if they can fly, maybe they can hover them and like move around in level mode, but they can't actually like our ESCs. That's one of the things. Like we bring it here and we fly it hard, and we do like whatever 1,500 degrees a second or whatever. Like we found an issue, but testing even with racers and stuff like that, maybe it's not going to pop up because they're not flying it that hard. So and then that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons, go with good companies. But I just definitely think that they get reinforced. They think if something comes bad and they screw it up, they think it was just bad. And it's extremely unlikely anything can possibly be bad out of the package because we QC everything we test.
And I definitely say people make mistakes, and people make mistakes very frequently, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, and we have the replacement plan.
Yeah,
which means, and we're gonna have to add Dominic's boards to the replacement plan.
I would say that learn from mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Listen, I make it twice all the time. I make it 3 times, 4 times.
It's about 4 or 5 times before I finally.
Sometimes you had a little too much eggnog.
Yeah, I mean, alcohol aside,
I think the lesson here, the lesson is use a smoke stopper or a power supply that has some sort of voltage current limiting in it. And flux is your friend. That's the other one I'd like you to think.
Yeah.
Like that'll stop. Like literally, Preston did some testing and blew up my smoke stopper, and I haven't had it for the last month. So the two blow-ups did not have a smoke stopper attached to them. Yeah, I happened to be traveling. There's no power supply, which we normally use, and there's no smoke stopper. So it was magic smoke. But
if you've got buttons on your quad or a barrow on your, keep flux out of them, please.
No flux on the barrow. Dominic has a barrow, and for those of you that don't know what that is, you don't really need to know. Dominic just likes putting expensive components on boards, like I said. for unknown reasons.
Yeah, I like barrows.
These are cheaper than the old ones, and they're better.
They're not very accurate.
Well, a lot of things aren't very accurate.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I mean, yes, okay, let's put it this way. A barrow is good for that 1%. Not even. 1/1000th?
Sensor fusion. Sensor fusion.
Oh, because Beta Flight has that?
Do they?
No, they do not. There's no Kalmans in Beta Flight. Sorry.
But apparently EMU Flight has one.
Yeah, they have the Kalman. The Kalman adds
himself.
two variables together, and they're adding two variables, so it's the Kalman.
Sir Kalman himself personally programmed it.
Dude, I want to go hang out with that. Is he alive or is he dead?
I feel like I should know this, but I don't. I have no idea.
I would like to go meet the guy. Have a beer with him.
He strikes me as one of those super nerds. You probably couldn't hold a conversation.
Oh, dude, I can get down with the super nerds. It's just like not what I want to do every day.
That's fair.
I'm a pretty good chameleon. I can do with the nerdiest and the least nerdy guys. I can pretty much run both groups.
Kind of like a closet super nerd.
Yeah. Well, you need to know when to turn on the nerdness. Sometimes you got to be a nerd, and sometimes you don't. Some people, can only be either one or the other, and I think that's the difference.
Where the hell were we coming from?
I don't know. This is the longest podcast
of all time.
But you know what? I believe it's entertaining. Deep down in my heart, I feel like we're entertaining. But I don't know. So I think we need to come to an end at some point. Where were we?
Well, we've gone through the life cycle about 17 times of multi-Wii to Beta Flight.
What's next?
But I know we'll talk about currently what we're kind of working on, what Dominic's been doing. So Dominic's been aboard officially about 2 weeks at this point. Is that about right? Yeah. So far, we may be making his boards work along with our new boards coming out in the near future. And we're also been going over some new hardware and some new things. And we got some kind of cool stuff coming too. Like I think you guys, maybe a lot of you know that I went to China for a little while with Preston, and we worked on a lot of cool stuff, and we have even cooler stuff coming. And I'm excited to have Dominic here because it can hopefully make stuff go a lot quicker in that ways, and hopefully push the hobby a little bit more forward. And I think something that you guys need to realize that, we haven't updated in a while, and we're definitely been pushing out stuff with Falco, don't get me wrong, but if hardware is getting a little old in the tooth, or that probably means we're working on new stuff. I think people just always want us to be at the very edge of everything, and I think that kind of happens with phones too. Like some Android phone comes out with some camera, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Apple sucks," and then like a month later, Apple comes out with something way better. And so you need to be a little slower to jump ship unless you're Donald. Wait, what is the guy's name? Scrooge McDuck.
Who is that?
You seriously don't know who Scrooge McDuck is?
Oh, I feel like I should know this. Now you both give me
my
a look.
God!
I don't know.
Oh
see,
my
there we
God!
go. Thank you,
Okay,
Dominic.
do you know who Donald Duck is?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck is his rich uncle, who literally has a vault filled with money, and he swims through it.
Yeah, you've never seen
No, I
any
didn't
of
know
those
that.
things on the internet?
Oh
I haven't.
my God!
No.
Ugh. I feel like
Yesterday, I was
I'm
watching
90
something
years old right
far more
now.
interesting.
Well,
It
I
was
mean,
well good. I was watching the Stadium Super Trucks yesterday. Have you guys seen that?
Stadium Super Trucks.
Stadium Super Trucks. Yeah, it's they have it in Australia quite a lot. The Traxxas Revos and like radio controlled cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially, they have full size ones of those.
oh yeah, that's
Going around this tarmac course where the F1s drive, but with jumps in the road.
oh
It's
yeah.
brilliant.
Well, us Americans
Very
are really big into all that off-road truck
But this is
racing. and
Australia.
stuff.
Anyone see the light flash? Or was it just me?
Yeah, it's been
I think you are having a stroke.
Okay. See you guys on the flip side.
Stadium super truck.
Yeah, we have we do the and here we get those big trucks like those
Monster trucks?
no the ones
yeah,
made
yeah.
for tearing through the desert. But like rich guys go
yeah,
race in
like
the desert with helicopters chasing and
Yeah,
stuff.
like the
yeah.
dune buggies. And,
Yeah, well, no, like these are insane.
yeah, the
Like,
big ones. The
way beyond
yeah, like
dune
monster
buggies.
truck.
Well, no, not
hybrid
monster.
Dune
They're made for speed
No.
though. Yeah, they're not like
the
monster
desert.
trucks.
Smaller
But
wheels.
like the
Monster trucks
Raptor.
and
The
car
Raptor is
yeah.
one of them.
Yeah. It's like a dune buggy cross super truck.
Okay.
Super.
I don't know what the
monster
dune buggy
truck.
All right,
aspect of
you
it
truck,
is, but
yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's
Well,
like
I mean,
dune
it
buggy
goes on-
suspension on a truck. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Long travel suspension.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
what these stadium super trucks
I don't
are.
know what any of that means. I'm
Yeah.
not a
But
car
it's
guy,
cool when
but-
they go around the corners because they're on tarmac. Front wheel like comes off the ground and they go around the corner.
Yeah, that's how we race in the United States, just in our normal
It's
cars.
cool.
Like you should see Mini Coopers go around the track.
well, American cars aren't really built for going around corners, are they? You know.
No,
Let's
it's
not
the
go into
Mini
that.
Coopers. Like, where are the Mini Coopers made? They're in the United Kingdom, right? Am I right about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the
Well, I don't
ones
know if
that
it's still
that the both wheels don't stay on the ground. It's always
They're
the Mini
just
Coopers.
go-karts, so you know.
My Mustang.
You can take the
Sticks
floor
like
out of
glue.
those things, stand up through the thing, and just like push it along.
It kind of makes me want one because every corner they're like, "Arr," like 2 wheels off the ground.
That's,
It's
that's
like
why
those,
people
uh,
like them. They're really
like-
fun.
Yeah.
Those like meme videos of like people drifting their car on 2 wheels, like just like driving them around, people hanging off the side of them.
But yeah, so we have some cool stuff coming. We are gearing up for our first release. I will tell you when our new board comes out. Eventually, everyone's gonna be like 2 weeks. By the way, if you say 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
I'm gonna make sure your quad flies to China on its own.
Yeah,
But it's coming soon. It's not coming tomorrow or the next day.
still working it out.
But we're flying our new board, so that's a good step in the right direction.
It will be announced when we are 100% certain that it is ready to roll.
It's just going to be such a leap forward to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
like-
it is a very, very
Like
big
we
leap.
think Dominic's board's cool. Ours is cooler. Honestly.
Ooh, those are fighting words right there.
But yeah, it's probably significantly less gigantic solder pads all over it. We're not going to be able to do. Well, I think we can do an octocopter. We can't do Can you do like 10 motors on your board, Dominic?
Mine does 12.
See,
Ooh.
okay, we can't
Well,
do
those are
12.
fighting words.
Now, that sounds like a video.
I want to dodecacopter you.
We got to create one of those, Nick. Let's put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
an
totally
aircraft carrier for our quads. Like literally, you heard it here first. If Rotorite does it, F you.
down.
Before we get a chance to do it. Man, that's a great
If you want
idea.
to talk to the FlightOne guys, they'll be up for it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not FlightOne, Flight Test.
Oh yeah, flight test will be up for that.
The FlightOne guys are for too.
Yeah. It's like,
See, we've already assimilated Dominic.
It's late
We just
here,
go
it's
Flight
like-
One over and over all day long and make him listen to it till that's all he can say now.
He's like straight up like Winter Soldier
These guys
status.
have only just got up and they're just like, oh, it's breakfast time. I've been up all day working on stuff. Building
But
flight control.
You know what?
Code.
I'm gonna summarize. Let's summarize it. We want to hear. I think me and Nick have been talking over you a lot. But what are you excited about with this new partnership? Or
I'm excited to be working team again. I think that's the most exciting bit. I've really enjoyed this the last
I feel like you just
3
slammed
weeks
the
or
beta
so.
fight.
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, it is.
And it's been really good. It's been really nice actually.
I've been that
continuing.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. I think it's nice because, how do I put it? You have something we could talk to. We kind of on the same mindset. I don't know. We can get things done. I think you not having to worry about arguing, maybe, why you should be doing things. Do you like that about it? Is my guess.
There's something to be said for having a direction, which you always get with a commercial product. Whereas with the open source thing, it's much harder to do that. So you have to get the developers to agree what they'd like to work on next. But with an open source product, it's basically you'll have people doing what they want to do because they like doing that. And if there's something else that needs doing that they don't want to do, it won't get done and it won't be on the agenda. You won't basically be doing it. So getting them to agree on a focus for a release is really hard.
Yeah.
Which you don't get in the commercial world.
Yeah, I mean, I
Someone
think
will
what's nice
"Gotta
about
do
us
this,
is like,
we'll get it done.
we don't have to support every flight control in the world. Like someone comes on with flight control and is like, hey, support us, and we're like, nope. Or people are like, I really want this feature. Like we don't have camera control in there, and
I get messages every single day about camera control.
Yeah, but to us, it's not like I would much rather have I don't know GPS over camera control.
Oh, I know.
So we're not going to get derailed by camera control because a few people like beg us to do it. We are going to look at one of two things: either think something we think is really cool and people will want, right? Like that, not necessarily that they think they like we don't go by what they ask for, because usually if they're asking for it, it's too late. Like by that time, it's not going to make that big of an impact. Like if people are already thinking about it,
it'd just be catch up rather than innovation.
Right. And then so we do it based on, hey, we think this is really cool, we think this will be big, or we do it based on a lot of people need this, basically. So we, majority rules in terms of it's something like camera control most people don't use. So to us, and it's a rabbit hole. The reason is like there's all these different cameras and all these different standards. It's just a rabbit hole. It's literally...
There is no proper standard for it. That's one of the other things with it. It's just like, well, it might work, and you're going to have to muck around with it quite a lot until it actually does. And as I found out the hard way, you can actually brick cameras by using it. I managed to brick a Runcam Swift using it.
And to me, honestly,
it's just a paperweight now.
It's really stupid. And then the other thing is like we spent a day with Runcam in China, and I'm like, listen, this is stupid. Camera control is stupid. Even UART control is stupid. First of all, why are you using 2 wires? You're like literally transmitting a byte, not even a second. Like you don't need to use a full UART for this. But secondly, you're literally just passing up, down, left, right. Like why don't we just put the settings?
The protocol should be just improved essentially.
So we actually had them fix that. I don't know if they're going to release the camera with it, but like to us, it doesn't make sense. Like we know that, then this kind of applies to this. Like if we are implementing stuff and people are already asking for, it's out of date. Like literally we'd spend all the time doing it, and by the time we do it, stuff would come out that's better. Yeah,
if we do camera control, I'm sure by the time it's released, there probably will be a better, more standard way to do it.
Yeah, like we know it's bad, and we don't want to spend our time working on something.
Here's a question for the customers. They can ask give their feedback in the comments below. Would you rather we spent time on doing camera control, or would you rather we spent time getting rid of the existing crap method of doing camera control and working with the manufacturers to do a better one?
Yeah, they're gonna say they would rather simply cam control because they don't have to buy new cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why we don't ask.
Right.
Yeah,
we put the comments.
But again, I think
like for example, the setup now, it's all OSD best. We can do everything in the OSD, which to me is the coolest thing ever. And then DJI came along and ruined it, but they're fixing it. However, that's part of our job. Like we think something's cool, we're gonna force everyone to use it, and then people are gonna use it and they're gonna be like, you know what, this is way better. But if we would have asked people, hey, can we kill the configurator and only do it in the GUI, everyone simultaneously would yell at us at once, telling us that's the stupidest idea ever. But now the majority of people, just everyone that's used it, I think pretty much. I don't think there's anyone out there that prefers using the computer over the OSD, because you already have an OSD.
For a single quad setup.
But I mean, you can back up and restore. That's not really a setup thing.
Assuming that everything between all the quads is the same.
No, but you could just rerun the wizard and keep you could just dump just your OSD settings, for example.
Can we do that?
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, why not?
Well, it hasn't added the stuff for that.
Well, no, you can just do the dump and then just take out the settings and restore only that, because you can just pick one file to restore.
Oh, you can. Well, yeah, you can manually.
No, not man. Well, yeah. I mean, what with the Betaflight, can you do it on Mac right there? Come on.
No.
Yeah. So like whatever. It's the same amount of work as Betaflight. But anyways, the point is that now that we forced everyone, it's like the standard. Everyone can't imagine living without it, and I think that's one of the reasons people go into Betaflight. They're like, oh, I can't do this in Betaflight. It's hard to go there, but we got to force innovation. And the same thing with the cam control. Like I would rather force, imagine a world, I'm going to take you back. Imagine a world where it's nighttime and you flick a switch and it sends all the settings for nighttime to your camera. You don't have to go up, left, right, down. It just sends it when you flick a switch. And then it's daytime and you flick a switch and it sends all the settings for daytime. Imagine, if you will, how amazing would that be?
So nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a freebie. Caddx, Runcam, we've already talked about this, and Foxeer, that's a freebie right there. Like, you call us up, we'll work with you on the protocol. They're probably not going to watch the video anyways because they don't get YouTube in China.
But they also probably don't speak English.
Yeah, no, that's we are not in any way affiliated with the racist guy
What? That's like
who thinks they only speak English in China.
That's like them making a video in
I
Chinese.
don't know.
Like,
I called
Chinese.
something Chinese made because it's made in China, and I got in trouble. So I don't understand the whole racial line thing. Yeah, I said, yeah. I'm not even gonna get into it. You can't say things even though it's made in China. You can't say it's China made.
Really?
I don't.
Well,
I don't understand the rules. I'm not young enough. But Preston doesn't understand the rules, and you don't understand the rules, so figure that out.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But anyways, but yeah, so that's the point. We want to do innovation. Like, we want to work on things that we know are future-proof, that we know are going to be used in the future. If we see something that's a really stupid standard and really crappy, like, really spend the time and doesn't make sense. And almost along the same lines, if there's some obscure piece of hardware that comes out that no one's using, but it's a bunch of work for us to implement, we're not going to implement it. Like Betaflight exists for a reason. Like, they can find someone willing to spend the time to implement it. And if that's super important to you, then you can still use our hardware with Betaflight. Like, we're not going to stop you. But to us, it's just not worth the time to implement those things. And I don't even know how we got there. But I think it's exciting for Dominic because he doesn't have to so much worry about that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been pushing the technology side of things forwards with all my flight controller releases. Every single one's done something different that no one else has done before. So I'm looking forward to seeing that continue.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, I don't know why anyone would fly any other flight controller for Betaflight than yours, well, except for ours. But that's just because you can run both software on it. But yeah, I mean, if I was doing Betaflight, I mean, I guess the cost, it's more expensive. But I mean, McDonald's now costs $10 for a value meal.
Well, geez, really?
Yeah. Welcome to 3 months later after you went to the United States.
Dang, what happened when I was gone?
People can think if they want with a purchase of one of the SP Racing flight controllers is that they're donating a little bit of money to the work that I put in for the software as well, not just the hardware. If they want to think that, they can think
so.
that.
Bow down, pay homage to the Father.
And it's funny, if you actually, I mean, you even go on the GitHub for Betaflight and you open up any single document, every file in there starts off with basically this was basically written by Dominic Clifton.
Yeah,
like every single file.
Because the original, it's based on CleanFlight, which was all his stuff. So the original header was maintained on all the stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you guys do a little search, it's funny that we're talking about this with the EMU flight and stuff. Actually, you know what? Anyone can understand the Git revision history. Anyone can go on there and look and see what people are contributing. I mean, there's graphs and there's all kinds of stuff. But the graphs can kind of be deceiving too, because you could rename a file and you get credit for tons of stuff.
Fair.
Which, but Butterflight.
I did a lot of that with the early CleanFlight.
Yeah, Dominic. Preston's already said you're the king of what do you call them? Submits. What did you call them?
What, commits?
Yeah, commits.
Commit.
Yeah. King of commits.
Yeah, I'm coming for you guys.
He's like, well, I made this different and this different and this different, so that's 3 commits. Ding, ding, ding.
I'm gonna have to start making more commits, man. I usually I can go days without making commit, and then I'm like, oh my god, I haven't backed up any of this stuff.
Well, I constantly
development
commit.
That's a
practice. I was working with one guy who remained nameless, and he'll be like, if we were doing pair programming sessions or whatever, and he would just be like, we've gone too long now without taking a commit. Let's just park all this stuff. Let's take a bit of this, do a commit, take a bit of this, because then you basically just drop it and then carry on at any time, as opposed to having this whole sprawling mess of uncommitted, unworking, partially working code.
Well, and when your computer crashes, you don't lose all day's worth of work.
Yeah. Or if you have a policy where you're doing a pair programming session and you're only with that other pair for a maximum 2 working days before you have to give it to someone else, so you can't give all of this uncommitted code to someone else. And the purpose behind that was basically to get all the members of the team involved in doing whatever it was that you were doing that was taking this time, right? So you basically have to keep your changes small so that you can then pass on what is still left to do to someone else, you see. And that was an interesting
and and I want to point out that we're not against people contributing and helping. We have Noah, who's helping with the configurator right now, the companion. And we have Bart, who is now helping with an Android thing with us. So, I mean, we're not against working with other people and you come in and helping us and stuff like that. It's the same as you can do with Beta. I don't know. He run a bunch of, I think it mostly writes iNav related stuff.
He's an easy IO guy.
Yeah.
So he did the multi figure eight thing.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I've used that before.
Wait, what is that for?
It was a multi-Wii phone configurator.
Oh yeah.
That's what I used.
Yeah.
I used that when I had.
Oh, so he's been doing it since even back then.
Since multi-Wii, yeah.
Yeah.
He's OG.
Yeah,
OG,
well, we're
Yeah.
digging. We went to the graveyard, guys. We dug up some graves, and we like zombified them.
We went back to the dawn of time.
Look, I want to say there is no better team right now in this sphere. Like, there is no like I don't know. We know our stuff. I just the bottom line. Like, we're gonna have some cool stuff coming out. I think everyone complements each other. We have like I don't know, the guys that really know what's going on. Nick and his math nerdness. We also have Corey Kasaba, who's trying to help us out with some stuff that he just got a degree in. I don't know what the heck, robotics,
Computer
control
science,
system.
computer engineering.
No, it's like related specifically to the space. What he did, like his dissertation was like on quad nerdness. I don't know.
Control system.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is he
He has his like
computer science based.
what's the 6-year one called? Masters of Bayesian. I mean, I don't know.
Masters of Patience.
he does something. I don't know, but he's trying to help out. I think the biggest thing is like people like Nick who don't have a clue when it comes to programming. The most they've really done is MATLAB.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, you come and help and you work with us and you learn.
Yeah.
I've learned.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like people, they've got skills. They might not be a programmer, but they're still like super valuable. And you basically have to extract the methodology so that you can put it into code form so that it works.
And Nick makes an amazing rubber duck. And
oh yeah.
Wikipedia that right now if you don't know what a rubber duck is. But he does make a great rubber duck. I can like talk about things to him, and rubber duck is. I'm going to tell everyone. So basically,
don't Wikipedia it now.
Yeah. So, you don't even need Wikipedia. Who needs that nonsense?
The general principle of it, I'll keep it short.
No, I'm gonna.
If you can, I want to do.
No, it was my turn.
Let
If you
Dominic
can't
do it.
explain it to a rubber duck, then you can't explain it, basically.
Yeah, but basically, it's like, hey, I'm stuck, right? And you can't figure out a problem, and you need someone to talk to. And usually, just by explaining it to them, you go, oh yeah. Like Nick is the smartest guy in the world because a lot of times I'll talk to him and be like, and I'll come up with a solution, and Nick's like, yeah, I helped come up with that solution, even though I don't know what he's talking about. But but like a rubber duck, the whole theory is you take a rubber duck and you put it on your desk and you talk to the rubber duck like it's a person. That's called rubber duck debugging.
Or dementia.
Could be that too. If the duck talks back, you may have an issue.
Yeah.
You know, did you put this on 2.8?
Yeah, I put it on 2.8.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Everyone's
good job.
I've got a donut. Does this count?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, that actually looks delicious. Oh wait.
Oh, it's a
that
fake
looks a lot
donut.
less delicious than you squeezed it and it's still in my face.
Ah.
It's like a hyper realistic plastic donut.
But it's
pretty
nice.
good.
I think that's what Dominic enjoys too. We're good rubber ducks too.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic now. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I went from not having any idea in the world how to code anything in C. Now, most of my problems I have, if I explain the problem out loud to like little Preston, like mid-sentence, I'll be like, well, I did this. I'm like, oh, well, it's probably because I did that, and that's not working.
And you know, for you guys that are in college that don't have any experience, I'm not saying come and help us, but you know, you're welcome to. Like, companies look for experience. Like when Nick goes out there in the real world one day, maybe he won't ever have to. Maybe we'll make millions of dollars in FlightOne cash.
It's not the real world now.
I was about to say, this is as bad a real world's gotten for me so far.
You know, I mean,
When I'm a big boy and I grow up.
but he will have a lot of experience, and the same with Preston. You know, my son. That's he was going to college learning Java, and like you get no experience. Like literally, you come out of a class.
No, experience is key.
Yeah, and you don't know how to do anything. Yeah, I mean, and experience always trumps education.
Yeah,
formal
I'm a
education.
huge proponent
Work
of
with
that.
as many people as you can, like as soon as you can. Would be
Yes.
my advice.
So you know, go work on some project. You know, it doesn't have to be flight control related or something. But if you're a programmer or a math guy or engineer or any of that crap, go find something to work on.
You learn so much when you're working with team of other developers. If you're sat there just like trying to code something by yourself, you'll be like beating your head against the brick wall. Go, why doesn't it work? Why?
I mean, and even that can work.
You then work with someone else. Like the great thing about it is you get double the joy when something works, and when something doesn't work, you get half the pain.
And you might have someone to play Apex with later.
That's the real secret.
It's Dominic's Battlefield. I think but yeah. So I agree.
I'm quite good with a hatchet, so just be careful. Chop this, chop that.
But this was it. This is our bombshell. Dominic's here. We've now integrated. We've what is it called? Assimilated Dominic from the dark side. Yeah. We really roofied him in a club and reprogrammed him. Now he thinks he's supposed to be with FlightOne. That's what happened.
Yeah, secretly, we told him, we trained his brain to basically replace the word FlightOne with beta flight in his head. So he actually, at his core, doesn't know what's going on.
That's why I said FlightOne instead of flight test. See, that's how well the programming worked.
There's some bugs to work out, but
pretty soon he's gonna be like, I want to eat that FlightOne. I love FlightOne on top of my Sundays.
I gotta come with another patch for Dominic.
We need the Dominic 2.0. But yeah, so hopefully you'll see the work some right now. Dominic's mostly been working on hardware related, like drivers and stuff. But hopefully it'll contribute to some real features. Oh, we do have something cool coming, but we can't talk about yet. But it will be. What? It's not on Dominic's flight controller yet. It's not on our flight controller, but it will be on the upcoming flight controller.
I don't even know what this is yet.
Ooh. I don't know. I think you should save it for the podcast.
Yeah. No, we're not going to talk about it now. We're just going to give teasers so you guys can beg us in the comments to tell us what it is. That's how we'll know if you watch the video the whole time.
Yeah.
You will be amazed, Dominic.
We're not telling you.
So many people are going to watch this entire thing through. You're going to be like, I can't believe people sat through an hour and a half of rambling.
We're like 2 hours and 15 minutes. We are so in the deep right now.
Oh my God. What time is it? I am 2 o'clock.
I know, dude. I'm starving.
It's Battlefield time for me. Yeah.
You know what would be awesome? Popeye's chicken sandwich.
That's exactly what I've been saying.
And an eggnog shake.
Ooh. I'm sold.
I need a cup of tea. That's what I need.
Oh, he needs a cup of tea.
You can't take the Englishman out. You can take the Englishman out of England, but you can't take the England out of the Englishman.
To be fair, after my time in Australia, I'm a huge fan of tea.
Yeah, you're like, let me get some tea.
Aren't you?
No, I don't think. I was
remember
drinking
hearing
that
you
much.
do that the whole time we were trying to play PUBG.
No, that was after he started dating.
Oh, maybe.
Nikki.
Oh, yeah.
Nikki did something to him.
Yeah, definitely added some.
We'll have to have her on the next podcast. Oh, we're gonna have we can have Andrea and Nikki on a podcast with us, and maybe women will think it's okay.
They'll also have their own podcast.
What are they gonna talk about? Dogs?
Actually, that's not a bad idea. I'd hop in for that one as well, guys.
So I don't know. I think that about summarizes it for this one. But if you guys have any questions, ask in the comments. If you guys think the beta flight world's coming to an end, that's okay because FlightOne's there. But I don't think it's going anywhere. But we are excited to have Dominic here, and hopefully, maybe we'll have some new people join the team even so. And if you guys are wanting to help program and you want to hone your skills, like we always have projects we could use help for. The software is free. Like we literally make our money from hardware. If you think about it this way, our board is about the same price as other flight controllers out there, except we do all the software. And our competitors are Chinese companies where I bet you the average monthly wage in China is less than $300 a month. Like if you take into account all the poor sections and stuff, it's super low. So the fact that we're competing with these Chinese companies and we do all the software and stuff, it's amazing we're still alive right now. So Dominic needs your contributions. We need we appreciate everyone's business.
And also I want to say, as someone fresh out of the formal education sector, I have probably learned more in the last 2-3 months than I learned in the entirety of my schooling, just working on actual real projects and doing stuff.
Yeah, we should jump on some more sessions together actually at some point, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dominic
I'm on a real time zone now, so I can do it.
Dominic loves paired programming. I
don't blame him.
He loves it.
I do too. I mean, I was on with Little Preston every single day when I first started.
I love paired apexing. Programming, not as much so.
Yeah, I mean when I started, I would sit with Little President for like literally like 6 to 8 hours at a time, just like grinding
That
through.
was my normal job for years, doing exactly that.
Yeah.
Every single day.
I've done that so much over the last 20 years. I'm glad I can pass it on to Preston. Preston is now my replacement. He's my proxy. I named them the same name to make it less confusing. It's finally come to fruition.
People think you're like Benjamin Button now.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, I haven't had a paid programming session in 20 years. Why do you look younger now?
It worked. My evil plan worked. All right, Dominic, I will let you. Why don't you send it off? Do you have anything to say? Your podium is available.
No, I think we've gone through it all. Really, to be honest, I'm really happy to contribute into to another amazing flight control system. So it'll be the third one now. So that'll be.
Yeah, we're super excited. Well, it's the fourth, right? I mean, you got Wii Flight, Base Flight.
Well, fifth one then, if you
Yeah. Ooh, man, you're quite the slut.
What's going on with all the flight control softwares?
I know, now I need RG.
He's like,
and what are the other
how many
ones?
partners have you had? 5. I like orgies. I like when a lot of people are involved.
Phrasing.
That sounds like a great note to just leave it.
Cut to black.
All right. Well, it was good. If you guys have any questions or have any ideas for us in the next podcast /
Give us all your
YouTube video,
ideas.
yeah, throw them in the comments, and we'll take credit for them and not give you any credit. No, just kidding. And if you anything else, try eggnog if you hadn't had it. Nick is going to do that.
Yeah, probably right after this.
Pretty soon, yeah. And look forward to some interesting innovations coming. We got some really, really cool stuff coming. I'm pretty excited about it. We just need to get enough free time to get to those things. But I think we're coming up pretty soon. Our next flight controllers that both ourselves and Dominic are coming out. I think to summarize, we're going like the SP racing is going to be like kind of aimed at the beta flight ecosystem where you kind of you can fly 12 motors on your quad. I don't know what you'd call it. A docto carrier.
Dodecacopter.
And you can do all those cool things. And he likes to throw everything in. Like he found a component on his floor and he's like, this belongs on a flight controller. And ours are going to be more streamlined like we always are, and a more transparent ecosystem. I think we're going to also make stuff work together a little better. I mean, our ESC stuff's been a little bit of a mess because, just from batch to batch.
A little bit.
Yeah, we haven't been really happy, which at this point, I think we've come to an end. It's working good now. We're pretty confident in manufacturing. In fact, Nick's going to test the last final.
Yep, the final
new design, basically, that new people are going to get. But today, yeah, I mean that's been a mess. But one thing that's nice is you get our ESC, it's going to work flawlessly. Like we are putting the time in to make it perfect. And one of the reasons we have this issue is we don't want to put out too many flight controllers that we potentially might have to replace.
Yeah, and that's always been something I feel like kind of gets misunderstood in this manufacturing process, is that there's a lot of companies out there who I won't name any who will get a design and they're like, all right, well, it flies good for the one that we tested, and they make like 10,000. And then they'll push them out and everyone will buy them and everyone has issues. And they're just like, oh, cool. We're just going to
just keep selling. Just keep selling.
Keep selling, discontinue it and make a V2.
Yeah.
And just like, don't say anything about it.
And like I said, a lot of these companies don't even have people who can fly, or at least that can even fly well. So they're not going to catch them even in the beginning. Like we tend to catch most problems. But we throw them out there. Like let's say, we'll do a batch of like whatever, 250 to 500 of something. And we'll throw it out there. And when you have 500 people testing something, you're going to find issues that you couldn't find with your 10 people that were testing. And that's what happens. And so let's say we get 20 people complaining to us. That's too many. And we're not going to do another 500 right away. We're going to try and fix that. And because we want to fix, we feel bad. Like we don't want to put garbage out there. We need to stand behind our product.
With my customers, every time someone has a problem, I want to know exactly what it is, exactly what you can do to fix it, whether it's software or hardware. And basically get that fixed as soon as and get to the bottom of the problem.
Yeah, and at our level, we can't be as much micromanaging, and hopefully soon at your level, when you have thousands out there, like obviously I don't want to hear about every little problem because they tend to have patterns. Like we know, hey, they're like, oh, my CPU gets hot or MCU gets hot. We're like, you plugged in the ESC wrong probably, or something stupid like that. Like our tech support guys.
You get to know it after.
Yeah.
But like, if someone has a problem with something, you can probably guess what they've done after a while, after being in the game for long enough.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing
occasionally, like something really weird comes up, and you're like, I've never had that before.
Yeah,
and do to make it do that,
We've learned a lot about ESCs too. I mean, one thing people are going to be like, why would I get your ESC? There's so many ESCs out there. Well, I will tell you, one of the biggest things that kills ESCs, we have fixed in our ESC, and we know other manufacturers have not, for sure. So one of the things that makes ESCs die is like there's a bunch of different things, and we've fixed them all over the course of the last 2 months. So one thing I think is going to be exciting is our ESC should be pretty indestructible, other than physical damage knocking off things.
Or soldering it wrong like I did.
Yeah. That's not.
That'll always kill it.
That's why we love our connectors.
I don't know why anyone doesn't like connectors. I would connect connectors for everything.
Yeah, I don't get it either, because like if you have the best of both worlds, you have the connectors, and if they somehow break, then you solder the wire. So it's like
exactly
a second life. Yeah. I don't get
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. Except I think in your thing you have to put the connectors on yourself. That sounds like now I'm already soldering. I might as well just solder. Yeah,
you get them like that from the factory, and then there are 2 boards which you can have connected, fitted at the factory.
I'm pretty sure the one I got came with connector. It had like a connector. Where is it?
It's actually I think it is like Time Warp.
Extreme's got connectors on it.
Oh, it does. Oh, it has.
Get it with or without.
Oh, I take it back, Dominic. You have connectors on it.
I've got connectors. I've got connectors and pads.
Yeah, good job.
I give people choice.
Yeah, and you can solder other connect. I don't know what these connectors go to. CN. I don't know what that says. GNS. Oh, SND sound. VTX and sound. So what are these? So what are these connectors? Before we go, you have what is this connector here? Is this an ESC connector?
Which one are you looking at?
The white, the bigger pin one, the 1.25.
The bigger one, that's the bigger pin one is the receiver one. The one on the opposite side of the board is GPS and 2 serial ports. One's for a serial port
arguably the one I want the most. He doesn't have one here.
Because I think that's supposed to be for individual.
Which one did you want?
Right?
No.
That one?
Oh, yeah.
That one's for individual.
Oh, the 3 connectors I think are the most important. He doesn't have one here, so we're gonna. That's why we're gonna make a good team.
Stacking connector for some motor output.
No, well, first of all, there's no ESC connector on here, right?
Well, because it's an AIO board. It's for individual ESCs.
Yeah, but I would still throw it on there because you can do both, right?
Yeah, it's on there already.
Which one's
4
the ESC
timer
connector?
channels available on stacking.
Oh yeah, because it's reassignable. Blah blah blah. Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, what
the 4-in-1?
The biggest one is the
ESC.
VTX and camera.
It doesn't have that,
connector,
but it's
though.
not designed for them.
Yeah, VTX.
Like
and
I
connector.
just love that I can just plug the camera directly in and the VTX directly in. Although arguably everyone's going to soldering on their devices, which is it's just stupid to me.
I don't know why you'd want to solder.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
the problem is that you're asking a bunch of people that have been in this hobby forever what they want, and so it keeps that same group of people in our hobby because of that. Do you know what I mean? Like you're only making products for people that are already here. You're not making products for new people. So then no new people come in, and you only keep the people who are here.
You can't. This is one thing I've learned actually. You can't please all the people.
No.
You have to have a variety of products to keep them.
Yeah, or you just need to figure out a way you can do both. But I think that's the problem with like I love the TBS VTX.
With the size limitations of it, it's just not physically possible to fit all the connectors.
Well, and I think they're going tinier and tinier, which is I don't know. I think we've all got caught except for Dominic. Somehow his company's named SP Racing, and he hasn't gotten caught up in the racing like the rest of us. But we're all chasing this racing market, which literally everyone gets everything for free, or they want the absolute cheapest thing they can. So there's really not the money's not really there. It's in the normal hobbyists and the freestyle guys, which a freestyle guy I just consider anyone that's not racing. Let's just put it like that.
I mean that's I think possibly just the definition.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I think that's where all the money is, and somehow like we're making things tinier and tinier. Who are we making it tinier for? The racers, right? Because the freestyle guys, do they want something tinier and harder to solder? No.
I like 20 by 20.
Yeah, well, you're weird.
I am weird.
Yeah.
It's a very odd setup.
Yeah, no, a lot of people need it because of
You also have connectors on
250
20 by
gram
20, so
weight.
you don't have to solder anything.
Well, yeah, I mean that's different. I think 250 gram kind of needs like its own separate thing, which we're working on, right,
that's a good
Dominic? Yeah. But yeah. So I don't know. I think we do a good job of threading the needle. I think our customers agree in general, because most people are like, I love connectors. I don't want anything else but connectors. But I think in future we'll keep it up like we've been doing, where you have solder or you can have connectors. But I'm kind of excited for our new connectors too. But all right, so that about summarizes it.
Again, for the third time.
Yeah, again, Mike.
This time's for real, right?
Yeah. This time that was a fake out to see if you guys are really loyal fans. It's like, are you watching after the credits in the Marvel movies?
And
That's
there's
how
like
we
after credits, after credits.
Yeah, we should go to credits right now, and then tell everyone. Now the code for the free flight controller is. Like, I totally okay. You know what? We're gonna do that. All right. Well, it was good seeing everyone. Now we need to. No, damn it! I gave it away. Next time.
If you want a free flight controller, make sure to the code is putting your social security number into the delivery instructions box.
If you want a free flight controller, just put your credit card number in the site. Put your wife's flight controller in, and then it's credit card number, and then it'll be like it was free for you. Does that work?
I'll take social security instead of that button.
All right. Well, let us know if you have any ideas, questions. Let us know what you think about Dominic joining us. Hopefully, this is a little bit of an education. Maybe you guys know who he is. I'm sure we're going to be doing some posts and some other stuff about it coming up. I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions. And hopefully, you guys can ask him direct. If you guys want to do a post in the group and tag him directly and ask him any questions or whatever, you can do that as well. And it was good talking to you. Don't forget to drink your eggnog. And do you guys have anything else to summarize here?
Should we just do a whole recap again for the 15th time?
Dominic, how about you? You want to send them off?
I'll let you do it. It's fine.
And with that, it's a wrap.
Woohoo!
Clap end.